Hey.
All right.
That was good.
Welcome to Nostalgicast, your weekly roundup of the best and most up-to-date nostalgic news where we discuss the stories and give our thoughts. I'm your host, who starts my car and tries to make the midnight show, Andrew Price. The Star Child, Tyler Palo. The Demon, Julia Mond, filling in for Kelby. The Catman, Louis Elvius. And Dad Beats, a.k.a. the Spaceman, a.k.a. Kirk Pinchon.
Dad Beats!
And I thought that was going to piss you off until I found out today that you actually like Kiss,
That I like the Kiss.
which is so bizarre to me.
Yeah,
because
I like the hits.
Kiss.
I go for the hits. I like Kiss.
you've always said like I hate classic rock. I
do.
hate guitar music.
I do.
And yet you like Kiss and you like Roundabout by Yes.
Yeah, I know. I'm weird.
Oh,
I got problems.
yeah.
So how did you assign us our names?
Just arbitrarily.
Oh.
I have
Because you are a demon.
Yeah, that's...
I have an
that's
order. It's always Tyler, Kelby, Lewis, Kirk.
Mhm.
And you just fit into whatever person you're replacing,
Mm.
and then that's the order of importance of the members of Kiss. It's Paul Stanley, Gene Simmons, Peter Criss is the
Mhm.
Catman, and Ace Frehley.
Hang on. Why is Ace Frehley the least important? Sorry to ask this and go diving deep for a band
Which
that I
one
just
is
kind
what
of like.
face is he?
He's the spaceman.
Because Ace Frehley is not that good of a guitarist.
Is he a better guitarist than Gene Simmons is a bassist?
That's
I would
the real
say
question.
Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons are very solid rhythm players,
Mhm.
and Ace Frehley is definitely on the bottom of the totem pole of lead guitarists.
So I'm at the totem pole of this podcast. Is what you've just
I
established.
just said that it's arbitrary. Like when that one episode when I did the good, the bad, and the ugly, I wasn't. It had no attachment to Lewis being ugly. It was just a chronological order of a sequence of events. Things he matched up with the ugly in that sequence.
You matched up with the ugly.
I'm gonna change the subject to. I didn't realize this was Kiss, and I thought you were calling me the Star Kid from that 1997 Disney Channel movie
No,
or Disney movie, and I was so excited.
no.
Are you less excited now?
Yeah, I don't like Kiss.
What? What is wrong with you?
No, I love Kiss. That's Dad. If you're
They're-
watching, I'm joking.
Their characters / masks are inspired by Japanese kabuki.
Welcome to the show for a second time.
Yeah, Julia.
Thanks.
Congratulations.
How's it feel?
Thank you. I feel really good. I feel really energetic. I have coffee, which is good. I didn't have that last time.
Yeah.
So my heart's racing. But yeah, I feel really great about it. I'm excited to only know 50% of what we're talking about today.
We'll
think I
just
know
stare at
this.
each other.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
With stuff we don't
it's-
know.
It's mostly Andrew doing the work. You don't have to worry about it.
I mean,
Okay.
if you're anything like any of the rest of these guys, it's way more than 50, or it's way less than 50%. It's like maybe 10%.
I was looking at the list.
Well,
I was
the-
like,
Yeah, it's like- no. I know a lot about this list.
The
actually.
percentage
I'm
went up
excited
because
about
Kelby's
this episode.
not here.
Yeah. Although I realize, not to just besmirch your subbing in for him, but there was actually a story that I had on here originally that I decided against, which was a surprise to me. It was a surprise to me that I realized this. There was a story that I decided to not go with because I realized that without Kelby here, there would be like nobody to provide a certain type of insight on this story, that to the point where I felt like it just wouldn't be interesting to talk about.
Let's try.
It was
What's the
something.
story?
It was something. I don't even remember what it was, but it was
Okay.
something to do. They announced that there's going to be massive layoffs for Marvel Television because they're folding Marvel Television into Marvel Studios, and Kevin Feige is like overtaking, becoming the head of all Marvel media. So he's becoming the head of the movies, which he has been, as well as publishing the comics and television. And then they're firing Jeff Loeb, who was the head of Marvel Television, and he's a legendary comic book writer who did a lot of he did like Batman: The Long Halloween and stuff. Kelby, typically when we talk about like movie and TV industry stuff, the behind the scenes stuff, like he usually provides. I don't want to say that. He usually provides the. I was going to say he provides the color, but
What? So you say it?
Insight.
the insight on
Better word.
that. Yes. So yeah, I was like, oh yeah, this won't be interesting to talk about without Kelby here. Which
Mhm.
was I was like, okay, and now I'm realizing the value of everybody.
It's
Finally. Getting into the holiday spirit.
Yeah.
We have value.
It's a Christmas miracle.
So before we get into the stories, I wanted to talk about this really quick. Not exactly nostalgia, but I think it plays into the stuff we talk about a lot on this podcast, which is stuff that's going into like streaming services and how they come into play with what our media landscape is like now. So they came out with the announcements for the nominees for TV shows and actors for the Golden Globes. For the first year ever in the history of the Golden Globes or any awards shows ever, there are no TV shows or actors from broadcast network channels nominated at all. It's only streaming services and cable channels. Netflix scored an astonishing 17 Golden Globe nominations, plus another 17 nods in the film categories. Hulu and Amazon Prime earned 5 nominations each. Apple TV Plus scored 3, which is crazy because it just came out. But I guess thanks to its recently debuted The Morning Show, whatever that is.
That's the Steve Carell, Jennifer Aniston show.
Oh, okay.
Has anyone seen that show?
No,
obviously.
I
didn't even
I
know
don't think
it was.
I'm going to.
Supremacy was most evident in the Best TV Musical or Comedy category, where 4 of the 5 nominations came from streaming services: Amazon Studios' Fleabag and The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, and Netflix's The Kominsky Method and The Politician.
Kominsky Method's a musical?
Musical or comedy.
Oh.
They wrapped them into one category. The story was slightly better for cable networks, though only HBO came close to matching Netflix, scoring 15 nominations for shows such as Succession, Big Little Lies, Chernobyl, and Barry. But even 2 of the network's biggest shows, Game of Thrones and Veep, didn't earn any nominations, save Kit Harington for Best Actor in a TV Drama. Showtime and FX, meanwhile, managed only a paltry 3 or 4 nods, respectively. So yeah, it's kind of crazy. There was a time, I mean, I think I remember the first ever original streaming show was Lilyhammer on Netflix.
Oh God,
I don't know what
I
that is.
vaguely remember that.
And it was a
drama.
Yeah, well, kind of. It was about a guy. I forget the actor. He's a guy who was in The Sopranos, and I just don't remember his name. But
James Gandolfini.
No,
Yes.
it's Stevie.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah,
Steven Van Zandt.
I think you're right, but
Steven Van Zandt.
Oh yeah, the guy from
Springsteen.
Yeah, but it's about this guy in the mafia who gets put into the witness protection program, and then he has to go live out in this random little Swedish village, and it's just about like a wise guy living in a Swedish village called Lilyhammer.
What do you mean, wise guy?
Hey,
Like
what are all
that?
these puppets doing here?
You've never heard the term wise guy?
Oh, like
I
little
mean, wise guy
marionettes?
like
No,
that.
the Swedish
Yeah,
chef.
Okay.
that's what a wise guy
Well,
is.
I didn't know whether you meant an actual sage or like a wise guy. I thought you were saying a wise man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Your rhythm was a little confusing.
That's right.
Well, I did
Just
say he
saying,
was in the
what?
mafia. But yeah, that was
Oh, you did.
that was the first ever one. And back then it was a very novel idea. Like, oh, that's weird. Like they made a show for the internet. Like it didn't feel valid. It felt like a weird experiment.
But people were doing that on YouTube, weren't they?
No, not back then.
No.
What year are we talking?
This was in like 2007 or something
Back
like
in
that.
the
I mean, there
DVD
was like,
days.
web series that you
Yeah.
made on
Yeah.
YouTube or whatever, but that was like people just making something in their living room or whatever. But the idea of making a real television show for the internet was like a weird experimental thing. The first one that was like actually legit and big and like legitimized and solidified the idea that like you could just make a real TV show for a streaming service was House of Cards. Like that show came out and people were like, holy shit, like there's like this huge movie star starring in or several huge movie stars starring in this show, and it's a real show, and it's produced by David Fincher, and he directed like the pilot, and it's just on Netflix, and then it became hugely popular, and then that just from that point on it was just a gradual climb to the point where now it's really surreal that like the Golden Globes is being dominated by streaming service shows.
For the record, the Golden Globes is fucking stupid.
Well, they're all
Yeah.
stupid.
Is that the
I
one
mean,
where
they're
they have
all
to
really
like, thank
dumb
the
show.
Academy or they will never get a nod
yeah.
again?
Yeah, you really, it's
Fucking
all just
terrible.
like, they're all just star effers.
Also, House of Cards is based on a BBC show. Some
Oh, yeah, I
of
think
the
that's right.
Like the
Yeah.
same exact thing, basically.
I mean, that being said, because they are stupid,
Yeah.
they're not that far off, I think. I mean, you kind of go, oh, what's on? Because I still watch broadcast TV, and I was going, wow, what's really good out there that's broadcast that could have been nominated? To me, other than The Good Place, which is a crime that wasn't. That's stupid. That's way stupid.
Why does being broadcasted validate? Like, I was too young in 2007.
What's broadcast and what's cable? Like,
back in the day, there was just network television. There was like Fox and UPN and
that was my stuff.
local channels like
Right.
KTLA or
There's
whatever.
like 6 channels.
Yeah.
And then cable TV was like this new thing where you had to like get these channels added onto your package, and you basically like paid an additional fee for every channel you got. So you got like HBO, but also even like you had to pay to get like the Disney Channel or TNT or whatever. Or no, TNT's network, whatever. But you know, the cable channels, you had to like pay to get them. Now, like when you get cable and you get like a package where it's like everything.
I get that part, but I'm saying like kind of like with music
And
though.
network TV, you can just get it through the airwaves. Like you put a antenna on your TV and you get all the network channels, and it's free, but they pay for it through the advertising. So the commercials you see are paying for the TV shows. It's the difference between, and maybe even this is not a frame of reference for you because maybe you're just still too young, but the difference between like being like a music artist that just has their music on SoundCloud versus being like signed to a real record label and having your album like pressed as a CD or whatever and sold in stores. That was at one point the difference between a show on network television versus a show that's made for a streaming service.
Even though the audience is there, like did Netflix have an audience that was there, like 100,000 people, 1 million people watching?
I mean, I don't know off the top of my head like what the numbers were at the time, but certainly, yeah. I mean, back in the day, like Netflix was like a thing where you ordered DVDs and they came in the mail, and then they had like some stuff online that you could watch. I remember when they first launched live streaming, and it was like Casablanca, and then like
Rent.
It was like 5 things, and they would like rotate them out. The first streaming movie I ever watched was Casablanca because it came on, and I was like, oh, and that was the first experience I ever had with watching something through a streaming service. And then they would like rotate them out, and like the next month they had like 5 different things or whatever. And then they started slowly adding things. And at first it was just a bunch of crap. It was a bunch of like straight to DVD type movies or whatever. And then they started getting real stuff where it was like, oh shit, they have like Sliders and Quantum Leap and things like that. And then, you know, it just snowballed to how it is today.
Yes.
Sliders is real stuff.
Of course it is.
What?
Is that the Jerry O'Connell?
Yes.
Okay.
One of the greatest science fiction shows in history.
I mean, I'm a fine Jerry O'Connell fan. I've never seen Sliders.
Oh my god.
I wouldn't put that in the pantheon of TV. hey, whatever you're gonna say.
Yeah.
It's the holidays.
So back to the Golden Globes.
Oh.
It's just an indication of where the money is going, right? Because with all those award shows, you have to pay to play, you know, that sort of thing. So, I mean, with all the streaming services being nominated, it's probably where a lot of companies are investing their money in expanding internet services as opposed to cable/broadcast.
And I think that people have been talking about that for a long time, but these things tend to be like theoretical. People will be like, yeah, man, like soon like cable stations are going to go out of business and like it's all going to be on the internet or whatever. But
well, NBC is coming out with their streaming service, which is an example of a company that has had, you know, broadcast/cable, but is just converting to streaming service.
yeah, it's all happening. It's been talked about for years, and now it's like I feel like it's just very quickly in like a relatively small amount of time, like just everything has just come to a head, and like now it's like every cable channel is, like you said, launching their streaming service, and now they're being pushed out of award ceremonies, and it's.
So are you saying that's bad?
The singularity.
Yeah.
No.
Oh well, not the award ceremony part. I think everybody creating their own streaming service is just terrible. You're going to be paying cable prices for bullshit that you don't want.
A part of the Peacock discussion has been that it could be free, but they use advertisers.
Then isn't that just TV?
What the? That's
Yeah, it is.
Hulu.
Well,
TV
yeah,
on
it's
the
just
internet.
this is
Yeah.
the thing.
TV.
It's not good or bad. It's the same.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
exactly
exactly.
the
That's
same.
what's
It's
interesting.
just like this happens all the time. But a couple years ago, there was a thing where there was this new social media network that came out, and it was called Ello. If you remember that.
No.
Oh.
and everyone was talking about Elo, and they're like, I'm leaving Facebook and getting onto Elo because Elo, there's no algorithm and there's no advertising, there's no ads. You just have friends and you just see what your friends post and that's it. And people were like talking about it like this is big thing and it's like really cool and it's like so much better than Facebook. But the thing is that that's how Facebook used to be. Over time, they became what they are now. And if that Elo thing had caught on and become popular and sustained, it would have inevitably just become Facebook. It's all the same. It's just like things start out and then there's a cycle. Streaming services are just going to become cable TV.
Yeah.
So will award ceremonies, because nobody really care. I mean, a lot of people don't care about award ceremonies anymore because it seems like people in the industry just gassing each other / themselves up. So, I mean, will award ceremonies go through that cycle too, where people just stop watching them and then there's a different type of award ceremony?
Well, yeah, probably. I mean, every year the ratings for the Oscars get lower and lower.
Yeah.
I think they had like really bad ratings last year.
That's why they have that's the thing about the Golden Globes is everyone says the Golden Globes are actually stupid, but people watch the Golden Globes because all the stars are there. So that's kind of Golden Globes thing of like, we just want as many stars in that auditorium on that night because that's what gives us our ratings and that's what kind of gives us our shine.
It's also a potentially dangerous situation.
You could have get yourself on a list.
Yeah.
Don't.
Julia's talking about her plot to bomb.
It's
Well,
not my plot. It's
This
just
is
like,
why you're the demon in the group.
it's not my plot. I'm talking about it from a defense perspective. I care about the people. So
Do we have a backup plan for like the secession of?
Well, we need a designated survivor.
That's what I was wondering.
Isn't that Kiefer Sutherland?
Yeah, in real life, he's the designated survivor. So they keep him off in a different building when the Golden Globes happen, so that if the Golden Globes gets bombed, he gets to star in all the movies.
He takes all.
He becomes the new Chris Pratt.
Yeah, that's weird.
I like it. They keep him in a studio that's like designed like a bunker.
What I have a question for you guys, because since you guys are younger than me and don't necessarily know like when it was just broadcast TV and that was basically it, like NBC, ABC, CBS, Fox. Is there any distinction? Do you go, oh, I know that show, that's an NBC show. Oh, I know that show, that's an Amazon Prime show. Or they're all just out there and they're just shows that you will either watch or not watch?
Only with shows that I care about. So, for example, I know that The Office is NBC.
Mm-hmm.
I know that Fleabag is Amazon Prime because I love those shows, and so I have seen either the commercials or I know the platform that I watched them on. So I know that. But if for any kind of random show that I haven't watched, I have no idea probably.
Okay. Lou, what about you?
I think every show is just a show to me. Like,
I swear to God, I thought you were going to say that.
Yeah.
unless it's an old
Unless
show.
it's an old show, which you're like, oh, that was a thing.
Yeah.
He's never watched TV, actually.
Nah, I used to
That's
watch
why
TV, but
all
like,
the shows are shows.
they just feel like shows.
Yeah. So anything you're like, that's just a show. I can either catch it somewhere or not catch it somewhere. Okay.
Yeah, I know MASH is Hallmark now because it's old.
Oh my God, it was CBS.
It was, but it's Hallmark now.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I definitely know where they all come
Well,
from.
Or actually,
you're
it's
a
Netflix
robot
now
because you know where you. I wasn't addressing you because I knew you would know. I knew that's your brain. Because there was always a kind of a distinction of like, oh, this is an NBC
How
show.
are we able to tell?
CBS was always like kind of your grandpa and grandma show. ABC was kind of like, oh, that's the family. We all watch this as a family. And NBC was a little, this is not really right. It wasn't edgy. But it's like, ooh, it has Cheers. It's about a bar. Or, oh, it has St. Elsewhere. That's a real heavy drama. Or Hill Street Blues, which I believe was NBC as well. Or Saturday Night Live. That
So
was
the
NBC.
shows matched, like the tone matched
They did.
the networks.
They did. And I think the tone matched, the shows matched the tone and maybe even matched what like the president of the channel or the company wanted.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was literally going to say is like by definition, every cable station is going to have a tone because the programming is dictated by one person.
The guy who runs.
Who is like, I want these things.
Yeah.
And they're saying yes and no to everything.
Yeah.
So inevitably the channel is going to reflect their personal taste, or at least what they think is what the audience is looking for.
I guess it's just like anything else. It's just branding.
Yeah.
If it's on brand, then it's going to be on our show.
What about something like Netflix then? That just takes a lot of different, like they just license a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think right now maybe it'll start to congeal a little bit, but right now and for this past 5-6 years or however long it's been, I don't necessarily think that Netflix or some of these streaming services like have a real definitive tone, because they're just trying to buy up as much stuff as possible. So they're just greenlighting shit. I mean, and they're kind of stopping that now. They're sort of like kind of getting more conservative, but certainly for the last 4 years, Netflix has just been like, yeah, $100,000. Here's $50,000. Make this. Yeah, we'll buy that. Like, they've just been trying to get as much original content as possible. So they're just kind of, there's no thing that's like, this is what Netflix does.
So Netflix still, it does have a lot of variety, but they're starting to get a little Hallmarky. They're kind of creating original content that's very similar to what you would see on Hallmark, because I suppose that makes money.
I heard that where it's like Netflix, the whole idea now, like there's really no rom-coms in movie theaters, but there's rom-coms on Netflix, and those are the rom-com movies that people see now as opposed to rom-coms in theaters. I remember hearing something about that.
Because they got the data. Movies are kind of just like using market research and kind of like, doing things and like too scared to take risks because, they did this one thing and that worked, and they use that as sort of their drafting method for making new movies. But like Netflix can just be like, yeah, we spent $1 billion and we just made a bunch of shit, and then we just looked at what everyone watched, and then let's just make more of that. So they made all those Adam Sandler movies, and they were like most viewed things on Netflix. So they're just like, yeah, let's just keep making these weird comedies and like these rom-coms or whatever, like these, like,
Did Netflix put out the Dark? It's like
Dark?
Dark. It's like Stranger Things, right?
Kind of. A lot of people enjoy it, but I suppose it's similar to that.
Hold on, I have a question.
I don't know what that has to do with what we're talking about.
Yeah, I don't know where
it's just
you're
like
going.
what you're saying is like they did
Stranger Things, and then let's have some more Stranger Things.
We'll make them like 5 years older, and they'll do the same shit.
But wait, if they follow data, would they ever have a tone? If they just follow data, wouldn't that always change?
Probably not.
So that's
I mean, it might never be like that, because I mean, not even just the data thing, but just Netflix wants to be the only thing. They don't want to be a channel on a series of channels that has its own style and tone. They want to be the hub for all content. So they want everything.
YouTube, kind of.
Yeah. So getting into the stories, I can't think of a segue.
That was your segue.
Yeah, is it because you smoked? Oh, is that not the right?
It's not.
All right.
Wrong segue.
Wrong segue. I'm sorry.
Read the outline.
Here's the segue.
Read the outline.
Tyler is insane, and nothing that he ever says makes any sense. Also,
I can't read, damn it.
Beetlejuice 2 is moving forward, and Michael Keaton is expected to return.
Yeah, that's exciting.
So sources have stated that Warner Brothers is indeed moving forward with a Beetlejuice 2. It's unclear if the project is actively in development right now or if it's just something they intend on getting to in the near future, but sources say it's definitely happening and Michael Keaton is expected to return. Furthermore, we're told that WB would like Tim Burton and Winona Ryder back too, but as with Keaton, it doesn't sound like they're locked in just yet.
Why did you make that noise?
So who is making the Beetlejuice reboot? WB.
Warner Brothers.
Warner Brothers. Who made the original Beetlejuice?
You mean the studio?
Yeah.
I thought it was one of them.
Wasn't it Warner Brothers?
The article makes it sound like they're asking them back like they did the original.
Yeah,
but I have no idea. I didn't know WB was
let's
Warner
wait
Brothers.
to find out.
The article made it
first.
seem like it's like let's bring the whole
Yeah.
band
Yeah,
back together.
I can usually remember from thinking back to the beginning of the movie and just remembering what production logo is on it, but I'm kind of drawing a blank on Beetlejuice.
You owe Warner Brothers an apology, Julia.
For what?
I don't know.
I don't owe Warner Brothers shit.
Whoa! This is sponsored by Warner Brothers.
There goes that advertising.
Yeah. The one and only.
Yeah, they've been talking about this for a while. For the past couple of years, I think people have been like sort of asking for a Beetlejuice reboot or Beetlejuice 2, and they've been like, there's been a lot of like fan art passing around. People are like making like movie posters for it or whatever. And I, considering the corporate shill that Tim Burton is, I guarantee that he wouldn't be opposed to this. So I'm sure it's been Michael Keaton who's been sort of like reticent to do it all these years. Otherwise, I don't see any reason why it wouldn't have already happened.
It's only worth doing if everyone's back doing it.
Yeah. And
why? I'm sorry to interrupt, but why is Tim Burton a corporate shell?
I mean,
you watched any of his movies?
Yeah, he's like, oh, you want me to make Dumbo? Sure.
Willy Wonka.
Well,
Okay,
let's
I
not.
mean-
Hold on a minute.
All right.
What? That's a corporate move.
Okay.
Okay.
It was more accurate than
So,
Charlie.
okay, here's the thing. With the remakes and the reboots, when people want the same cast, does that mean they want the same thing? Because isn't that what you don't want with a reboot? You want a fresh take on something that's nostalgic, that gives you the feeling, but you're still hearing a new story.
No.
It's a- it's a
People
se-
want
it's a
the
sequel,
exact
isn't it?
same thing. And whenever it's not the same, they get mad.
So why don't, okay, but The Lion King was the exact same thing and people were mad.
No, well, not really.
That's
The Lion
different.
King made a ton of money. It
But
does,
people
like,
were mad still.
Right.
but that's a vocal minority. That's like just like fanboys on the internet being like, I mean, I didn't see Lion King, but for all intents and purposes, I've heard that it was bad.
So why don't people
But
just
whether
rewatch
it's-
this movie if they want to see the
Well,
exact
this
same
one's not a
thing?
reboot; it's a sequel.
But people still want the exact same thing in the sequel, right?
Yeah, they just want the same thing.
Yeah,
I feel like they want a
same thing.
continuation.
They want to continue. Yeah, I would
And
agree with that.
That brings me to my point. I think it should be she's gone crazy, like Winona Ryder's just gone crazy trying to explain what has happened to her family. And the opening scene is her just riding that thing through the store as she's like stealing clothes and stuff. And then that leads into her in an insane asylum talking about Beetlejuice, and just like they won't let her say it.
I don't want
That doesn't
this.
work because the parents know what happened, and at the end, they've sort of like accepted.
They've accepted
the
it. They
ghosts.
changed
They're
the
not
house.
dead by now.
Jeffrey Jones is dead,
Oh God, I
Jeffrey
meant
Jones?
isn't he?
No, he's not dead. He's a pedophile.
Now I wish he was dead. I don't feel bad about it anymore.
Yeah, no, he's I don't know if he's in prison or not, but he got shot. He got caught for child pornography.
Well, he won't be back for the sequel.
Oh yeah, 100%. That's actually that's an interesting point. Is like people cancel movies and TV shows whenever and I don't mean cancel as in like literally the network canceling. I mean people canceling it, where they're just like, you're not allowed to watch, Annie Hall because of Woody Allen, or you're not allowed to watch Chinatown because of Roman Polanski or whatever. But people don't cancel movies when the person got in trouble pre the Me Too movement. Like Jeffrey Jones 10 years ago got outed as a pedophile, but nobody's like, you can't watch Ferris Bueller's Day Off anymore because of him or whatever.
Jeffrey Jones is the principal?
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
People are selective about the things that they choose to shun. Tim Burton hasn't made a good movie in decades, so I have no interest in this at all.
What's the only?
Edward
I was about to say,
Scissorhands.
what are you going to ask?
Yeah. What are the good Tim Burton movies?
Or the last good one?
Yeah, the last
Oh.
good one.
Okay.
I'm not enough of a Tim Burton historian to remember like the last good movie, like what the timeline of it is, but like, he made Pee-wee's a Big Adventure,
Great movie.
which is amazing. That was his first movie.
Julia.
What are you talking about?
Julia.
Wait,
I
you don't like it, or you didn't see it?
I don't like it.
What?
What?
It's
I
great.
don't
It's great.
get what there is to
You were
like.
genuinely
The
scared when
movie?
her eyeball just popped out of her head?
I don't feel fear.
Damn.
It's not about fear. That's not. That's not the appeal of the
That's
movie.
the truest thing Julia has ever said.
It's just a
Oh,
good
name
movie.
it. Do it, or else.
Oh,
What? Oh,
No,
Planet of the Apes.
Planet of the Apes
So-
It scares you.
is not a good movie.
No, it doesn't scare me.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
Edward Scissorhands.
Edward Scissorhands,
I mean,
fantastic.
like Edward Scissorhands, one of his best movies is Ed Wood. What else? I'm just drawing a blank on things.
Nightmare Before Christmas.
Well, he didn't direct that; he produced it.
Oh.
Henry Selick directed it. Henry
I did
Selick,
not-
is that his name?
I did not
Tom
know.
Selleck's cousin?
Stop.
I doubt it.
Okay.
I somehow knew you were going to say that.
If you have the same name, you got to ask, right? Like
You
if you
could
met
ask,
somebody,
you
if you
don't have
met
to.
somebody with your last name, you got to go like, are we related?
I've never met somebody with my last
What?
name.
I don't know what your last name is. So I'm
Oh.
trying to figure out.
It's Smith.
I didn't want to dox you on here. I know what your last
Yeah.
name is.
No, you don't.
I
Don't say
said
it,
her last
Okay.
name at the beginning of the episode.
and it will never be spoken
Yeah.
again.
You're gonna make a real maudlin if you do.
Oh.
That's that that joke doesn't work.
Why?
That's not what her name sounds like.
Oh, is it not?
You should have just stayed outside and not gotten your coat.
It's so cold in here.
Oh my god.
No, I mean you should have just stayed
I
out
should.
there.
I know
Yeah.
it's warmer out there.
You should have left and never come back.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, he's made, but like, I liked as much. This definitely got into the shitty like corporate shill Tim Burton, but I actually I mean, I haven't seen it since I saw it in theaters, so maybe I'd watch it again and just not like it. But at the time, I liked Sweeney Todd. And that's the last Tim Burton movie I remember liking.
Oh wow!
But the only reason why I probably like that is because I just love Sweeney Todd. It's just, you know, you any movie musical you watch it, and if you like the musical, there's some element of like, oh yeah, I like this because I like the musical.
I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion. I don't like Helena Bonham Carter, but that's the only thing I like her in.
You don't like who?
Helena Bonham Carter?
Bonham.
Bonham Carter? I
Bonham.
don't know. La Vie Boheme, guys. Come on.
You don't like Helena Bonham Carter?
I don't.
Why?
I feel like she plays the same character in every single movie.
Wait,
so does
and it's-
Matthew McConaughey, but he's great. That doesn't mean anything.
For the abs. That's it.
Wait, you're
No.
wrong because
Because
Wings of a Dove is different
I
from
didn't see
Fight Club.
I didn't see Wings of a
So
Dove.
your knowledge is faulty.
Well, you know, or just not old.
Helena Bonham Carter is great.
That's-
And she does not play the same character in Fight Club that she plays in Sweeney Todd.
Fight Club.
Or-
She plays
or
the same character in
Planet
Fight
of
Club
the
that she does
Apes?
in Harry Potter.
Right? She's in Planet of the Apes. Did I get that right? I think she's in Planet of the
Everyone is associated with Planet of the Apes
7 degrees
by
from Planet of the Apes.
7 degrees. Yeah. I was going to say 3 degrees.
Apes. Okay, she is in. Thank you.
But yeah, then there was like Dark Shadows, and that movie was fucking terrible. And then so on and so forth. I lost track of
All right.
any movies that he made since then.
Alice in Wonderland, Charlie and
Oh yeah, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory came out before Sweeney Todd. So I saw that and I was like, this sucks. And then I saw Sweeney Todd and I was like, oh, I like that. And then it was downhill from there. And even Sweeney Todd is like not a good movie. I don't know. It was just like I enjoyed it watching it in the theaters. But Alice in Wonderland was fucking terrible. I mean, and especially because I saw it in 3D and it was horrible.
Why was it 3D?
Because that was back when 3D was like super popular.
Let's make everything 3D. Yeah.
It was like one of the first 3D movies.
People have stopped thinking 3D is the best,
Yeah.
right?
I hope so.
Yeah, 3D is it's an afterthought now.
Okay.
It's definitely fallen
That's
out of popularity.
Positive. What about IMAX? Is IMAX still in the game?
Yeah, I mean,
IMAX with
but
D-Box.
IMAX is. I mean, I would argue that IMAX is becoming the norm because IMAX is objectively better than just a regular movie.
I refuse to see IMAX
Why?
Really?
I knew you would
because
say that.
I'm not paying extra money.
Yeah, he doesn't even like when you have an assigned seat.
Why pay extra money? I'm going to hear it fine.
Okay.
Real
I'm gonna
IMAX.
hear it
real.
fine.
I'm going to hear
Fine.
it fine. It's
It's
going
not
to be
about
great.
the. It's
You're
not about the
gonna
audio.
kick Andrew
IMAX
off.
is not audio.
I'm going to see it fine too.
Here's what I'll say
It's going
about
to be great
this.
either way. I don't need.
It looks better. I mean, you're somebody that probably said that back when HD came out, and you were like, "Oh, standard definition is fine. Like it's not any better." But now, if you went back and looked at standard definition, you would think it looked like shit.
Incorrect, because I've mistakenly recorded stuff on standard, and I go, it's fine. I get it. I can see it. I can hear it. I'm good.
You need to see a nature documentary on IMAX, and that's the only
Yeah.
time that I've had an experience in IMAX that it has made such a difference.
It's on another level.
Yeah.
It's just a different.
You
experience.
feel that you're in the ocean with the marine creatures, or in the jungle with all of the animals there.
I
That
I
can
definitely, when I go to a regular screening that's non IMAX, I'm just like, what is this small bullshit? Like it's just night and day to me.
Just one time, one nature documentary.
I
The
mean,
only-
made
the
it for
only-
Julia.
The only issue with it is that some theaters don't do true IMAX, and then they present it as IMAX, and it's just not actually the
Mm.
same. So you have to make sure that you're going to a theater that like has a legit good IMAX.
Yeah, def scope it out.
Um,
First.
Do my
the
research.
AMC
Yeah.
16 in Burbank has great IMAX.
Oh.
There's a Half Baked 2 in development.
You're
Somebody-
looking directly at Tyler for this.
Tyler's like, I'm here for
No, I
it.
didn't mean to
Alright.
look directly. I caught it out of the corner of my eye that he was making some goofy face, and that was why I looked at him.
He was making the I'm here for it face.
I'm here for it face. Yeah.
His stoner, I'm
Uh,
here for it face.
I was here for it until I read the article or read the thing and found out that Dave Chappelle wasn't here for it. And I was like, it's got to be backed by Dave. But then he
Yeah.
didn't back the first one.
Yeah, well, I
He
mean,
was
the-
in it though, right?
Huh?
He was
He
in the
was in
first
it, but
one.
He wrote it.
Yeah, he was like, they made
with
this
Neil Brennan.
geared towards kids. And I was reading it and I was like, oh, come on. I watched it when I was like 10 years old.
Yeah. Yeah, so
I loved it.
a sequel to the 1998 stoner comedy movie Half Baked is apparently in the works, as comedian Justin Hires has announced he is writing the screenplay for the project. An actor, musician, and comedian, Hires is perhaps best known for his starring role on MacGyver, though this interest in writing has also led to him penning Half Baked 2. Excited to announce I'll be writing the sequel to Half Baked, Hires says on his Instagram account, confirming reported rumors of his involvement. He adds, "Yes, I know the original is a classic, and yes, the sequel will be fire because I'm writing it. Oh yeah, I write screenplays too."
Wait, is he saying that as a joke? It will be fire because I'm writing it?
Probably not.
He's a young kid. Like he
Wow.
probably said it. I don't. Okay, what are the brackets for? What does that mean?
It's probably because it was an emoji. It was a fire emoji.
Oh, okay. Gotcha,
so they're
gotcha,
just
gotcha.
replacing it with the word fire.
He just texted this to
That's
the
a
guy.
lot of confidence.
Yeah.
It will be fire because I wrote it?
I don't understand why he's writing it.
I don't know who this person is.
I don't know.
I thought when I read MacGyver, I was like, that old dude's writing.
That's right. Is there a MacGyver show? I don't
There
even
is a
know
new
about
MacGyver
this.
show. Yeah,
And he plays
He
MacGyver?
plays. Look him up. You'll see.
Who is it?
You'll
What is his
Todd's doing
name?
it.
Justin Hires?
you'll immediately hate it.
Whoa, what?
Whoa.
I'll immediately hate it,
Whoa,
Tyler?
not what I thought.
Wait, so
Not what I
just
thought.
seeing his face
No.
will make me immediately hate it?
I was thinking about something else. Who plays MacGyver?
Put it on record.
No,
That
no.
Tyler said that when I saw his face,
That's
I would
not true.
immediately hate it.
This is not what I thought it was. I'm thinking about some blonde kid.
Yeah.
And this guy plays MacGyver on a
He
MacGyver show?
does?
And he's 34 years old.
Oh, no. MacGyver is not him.
Okay,
So-
yeah.
What?
So he's
This-
the sidekick then?
This guy plays MacGyver.
Oh.
And I thought he was doing it. I was
So
like,
who is
I
who?
hate it.
What does he play on
Is he
MacGyver
that
then?
guy?
MacGyver, apparently, the new MacGyver, I guess he's a young white guy. Justin Hires is a young African American man. So maybe he's like the second lead, my guess.
And how old is Justin?
Oh, Detective
He's 34.
James.
He's 34.
James Carter is his role.
Oh, okay. So yeah, he's
Oh,
the,
wait.
he's the cop side. He's the cop number
And
2 lead.
he's
No,
writing.
this is Rush Hour. He plays James Carter in the new Rush Hour show.
Oh, that show got canceled.
Oh, that's okay.
He plays Wilt Bozer on MacGyver.
Oh, good name though.
So in conclusion, he's not a young kid.
He's 34.
He's a man.
That's,
he's a
that's
he's
pretty
a,
young.
an
He's a-
adult.
I've been told a lot that that's very young.
I mean, I'm not saying at 34 is old. I'm just saying he's not a kid. He's an adult.
I mean, on a grand scale of 100 years, that's a kid.
Most people don't live to 100 years.
Back to Half Baked.
Uh,
Do people really like? I know it's kind of got a
Absolutely.
cult movie, and I've caught bits and pieces of it on Comedy Central over the years. Does it? I hate to say, does it warrant a sequel? Because everything could be a sequel, but
Well, I mean, here's the thing. So it definitely has this huge cult status, and people love this movie. I'm gonna be really controversial and say that I like Half Baked, and I definitely watched it a lot when I was younger. But it's not actually that good of a movie. In my opinion, it's very basic in terms of that era of like stoner and sex comedies. Like they were all fun and enjoyable to watch, but they're not like great films. Like How High and
Yeah,
Half Baked and Road Trip and American Pie. Like they're good movies that you like to watch, and I definitely watched a lot of them when I was a kid. But they're not like I just like Half Baked is a little overrated in my opinion. It somehow became this like higher thing as like regarded as this great classic, and I don't think it's any different or better than any of those stoner or sex comedies
Maybe
from the 90s.
Well,
because of Chappelle.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
it is 'cause
it's
of
like
Yeah.
Chappelle
Okay.
and then the
Neil Brennan.
the no is that his name? Neil Brennan, the no chin guy. I can't remember his name, or the high guy.
No,
Oh,
that's
You said the
no
no
chin,
chin?
guy.
That's Jim Brewer.
Jim Brewer.
Jim Brewer.
Neil
Shit.
Brennan is
Neil
a
Brennan-
comedian
yeah,
and
he,
writer.
He co-wrote Half Baked with Dave Chappelle.
Okay.
You said no chin.
Well, I mean, there's the who's in Starman. That guy's in Half Baked. He's the one that kills.
Jeff Bridges.
Oh God. No. It's the one.
Starman? It's like a movie from the 70s with Jeff
It's from
Bridges.
the early 80s.
Is
Jeff Bridges.
Spaceman where the guy is like training to be an astronaut, but in no way.
Rocket Man?
Rocket Man. So that guy kills the horse in Half Baked
Yeah.
and goes to jail.
Yes.
That's the no chin guy in my
what is that
opinion.
guy's name?
I
always
can't.
forget-
But
No idea what's going on now.
Harlan Williams. Harlan Williams?
Oh, yeah,
Is that his
yeah,
name?
okay, yeah.
Is
Is that his
I know
name,
that.
Todd? No, Harlan Williams. Is that an author?
No, he's a comedian. Harlem is a
Yeah, yeah,
they're
no,
all
and then,
comedians.
yes.
They're all comedians in the.
Well, yeah, Harlan Williams. That's
Okay.
he's in Half Baked. He's the guy that they're trying to get out of jail.
They all spawn some pretty good memes.
So
I
Chappelle
imagine.
won't be in Half Baked too.
He has nothing to do with it.
Okay.
Will anybody be in it from the past one?
I doubt it.
No, it's probably gonna
Right?
be. Oh no, well, yeah, it's probably gonna be all new
Yeah.
actors. Yeah, Harlan will. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
in Half Baked, and he's the main character in Rocket Man. He's also the guy in There's Something About Mary who he picks up. Ben Stiller picks up, and he's telling him he has this idea like for the because there's 6-minute abs, so he's doing 5-minute abs, and it's gonna be more popular than 6-minute abs. And then he turns out that he has like a body like in his bag, and he's a murderer.
Okay, I remember that.
Spoilers.
So the sequel will follow the son of Dave Chappelle's character from the original movie. No other details about the sequel's story were given. Unfortunately, Chappelle will reportedly not be involved in Half Baked 2 in any capacity, and it's not yet clear if any other actors from the original will return. The comedian has gone on record in the past expressing his displeasure with the movie, feeling it was inappropriately geared towards an audience that was too young. Chappelle, in an interview, said, "Half Baked didn't come out the way I wanted it to come out. I was real upset about that because it was a cool script. And then I saw it and I was like, hey man, you made a weed movie for kids. And it wasn't for kids, the script, I think that Half Baked is good and I liked it, but it's a little overrated. You know what is a great weed movie?
Pineapple Express.
That's a good
That
weed,
is a good
That's a
one.
good
That's a
weed
really good
movie.
one, yeah.
Thank you.
Smiley Face.
Oh, Anna Faris.
Yeah.
Skullfucker.
I fucking
Jesus
love that
Christ,
movie.
I forgot about
Smiley
that
Face
movie
is my
or
favorite
movie.
stoner comedy. It's so good.
Oh, it's so good. That's true.
Never seen it.
Yeah, you guys should watch it. It's really good.
It's like a stoner art film.
Hmm.
It's like really weird.
The idea of a stoner comedy is strange to me. The idea of that being a genre. Is that strange to anyone else?
No, because that was what was popular whenever I was a kid.
I mean,
Like in the late 90s, it was just all like, Dude, Where's My Car, Half Baked, How High.
To
like,
me, stoner comedy, for what I know as stoner comedy, is very Seth Rogen.
Yeah.
He's like, that's the stoner comedy genre I know from him. But I still think it's strange that it like has it. There's no like alcohol comedy, it's a specific drug culture.
Well,
Alcohol's
because-
not funny.
yeah, being drunk is like sad.
Yeah.
It's not funny. Being high is funny.
But also, How High was fantastic and didn't do anything for me in the educational sense. But watching Half Baked, I was really young and I liked the idea of making all the candy bigger when you were high. But I saw that like they all got in trouble, so it really helped me not smoke weed at a young age.
you saved it for later.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's being written by this random guy I've never heard of.
That thing was awesome.
So
Sick.
there's really high hopes for this because
Yeah.
it's written by a guy who just like, is not known for writing, let alone writing comedy. Not going to have Dave Chappelle in it, or I'm assuming anybody else. Because I'm seems to me like Jim Brewer is the kind of guy who's like, oh yeah, Dave's not in it. Like fuck that.
Mhm.
He wrote Dean's List.
Oh, I thought that was another like weed movie. I was like,
Sounds
I haven't
great.
seen it.
Yeah, so that's going to be real exciting to watch.
He's just like what
to wait for.
He writes like a scathing
Todd's like, I don't even know.
commentary on society and how it treats people.
Could be good.
Yeah,
I
I'm
mean,
excited.
nobody expected Get Out to be what it was. There's a Last Starfighter sequel on its way.
Andrew, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
I might be the only one in the
Yeah.
room. I mean, I can't believe I'm saying it, but go ahead.
Is that like Battlestar Galactica?
No.
No.
Gravy Witta, writer of Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, Book of Eli, The Walking Dead, and other films and shows, took to Twitter to reveal that he's been working on another project. It's a sequel to The Last Starfighter. The Last Starfighter is a fan favorite among science fiction fans. Fans will remember the original film, which followed Alex Rogan, played by Lance Guest, who, after finally achieving the high score on Starfighter, his favorite arcade game, meets the game's designer, Centauri, who reveals that he created Starfighter as a training ground for developing and recruiting actual pilots to help a fight in a space war. Whisked away from the banality of his trailer park life to a distant alien planet, Alex struggles to use his video game playing skills to pilot a real ship with real lives at stake. It's a great movie from the 80s.
Great movie from the 80s. Robert Preston. The late Robert Preston was in it.
Yeah,
Great.
and I'd love to see a sequel to The Last Starfighter.
Yeah, that could be really good.
But my worry is that it's going to be like a cross between Ready Player One and Ender's Game, because it just sounds like that.
Last Starfighter is more of just a kind of
Nice.
fish out of water action comedy.
Yeah, there was no real
Okay.
deeper meaning.
Yeah,
or
it's not
deeper
like
level.
it's not like a space epic like,
No.
like
Okay,
Ender's
good.
Game.
No. If they keep it that tone, that's going to be real fun.
Okay.
And bring back my
So-
girlfriend.
Yeah, so I'd love to see a sequel to The Last Starfighter.
Yes.
She does.
And I think the only
She
reason why
will
you're saying
crap
Ready
about
Player
me.
One is because in Ready Player One,
Lives in a trailer park.
yeah, but that was a reference to The Last Starfighter.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
If you read the book Ready Player One, which go on record to say that the movie was fucking terrible.
Yeah.
And the book, which I read just because I was like, got to read this, I guess. It's, it seems required for somebody like me to read this. The book was fine, but it was a
Oh,
little,
wow.
I thought it was a little hack.
Okay.
Interesting. I thought you'd ride hard for it.
No.
Now,
This is a movie. Like the literal story behind this is that the author he wrote a script for a Ready Player One as a movie, and he couldn't sell it, so then he decided to write a book so that he could get the book published, so that he could option it as a screenplay to make the movie, which is a very common thing. Ernest Cline.
Ernest Cline.
It's a very common thing that writers do now is they write books or they do comics just for the purpose of optioning it into a movie because it's easier to get a book published or a comic published than it is to get a movie made. And I just think it's a very hack thing to do. It's like if you're not good enough to sell a screenplay, you just write a shitty book and then somebody else will write a better version of the screenplay based on your book.
I don't think that's a hack. It's just, isn't that a part of an artistic process? Because you're writing a shitty version and then somebody else is saying, this is a good idea, but you made a shitty version, so I'm going to make it a better version.
No, it's business writers just trying to get their shit made so they can make money. It's a very hack way of getting a movie made, in my opinion.
If Kelby were here, he'd be for it.
Oh, he
Yeah,
100%
100% would be for it.
and that's why it's hack.
yeah.
That's why Kelby's not
you
on the
heard us,
show.
Kelby.
Julia's here.
But anyway, yeah. So in the book, they didn't do this in the movie, but in the book, there is a thing where during the process of finding the different clues and keys, they unlock this thing where you play a game where you basically go through an entire movie and like you star as the main character, and the point of the game is that you have to recite all of the dialogue from memory and get it right. And
War Games.
That's not War Games.
yeah.
No, that was the movie they have to
They
recite.
did
okay.
War Games. That was the first one, and they also did the Last Starfighter.
Oh, okay.
It was one of the other ones they did, and the whole living at a trailer park thing is like a direct reference to the Last Starfighter
Oh.
because everything in that movie is a reference to 80s and 70s.
Right, I
stuff.
feel wasn't it like the entire book was like an homage to the guy who directed the movie or whatever, Spielberg.
among other things, and he didn't direct the Last Starfighter.
No. He directed
Ready Player One.
Ready Player One,
Yeah,
and didn't get a feel for his own movies at all. Nothing felt good in that. movie.
among other directors and movies, it was definitely a big homage to Spielberg and the 80s blockbuster. This just was announced a couple days ago, but they're doing a remake of Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. It's coming out on April 2020. Hot on the heels of the popular Resident Evil 2 remake that was released earlier this year, Capcom has announced that it'll be remaking Resident Evil 3 for modern hardware, which was already available by a few leaks. Like Resident Evil 2's remake, the new Resident Evil 3 will feature entirely overhauled graphics and gameplay with a similar over-the-shoulder camera perspective. Additionally, Capcom announced that the asymmetrical 4 vs. 1 multiplayer game Resident Evil Project Resistance isn't its own game after all. It's a new multiplayer component for Resident Evil 3 that will be included with the remake. First released under the name Resident Evil 3 Nemesis on the original PlayStation, the game put players back in the shoes of Jill Valentine, one of the characters from the first Resident Evil game, as she tries to escape from the zombie-infected Raccoon City while being hunted by a monstrous creature named Nemesis. As the trailer reveals, Nemesis has gone through a significant design upgrade. Resident Evil 3 will be available on April 3rd, 2020 for the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC.
I thought it was a movie.
It's that literally
What?
Tyler? No, I thought the same thing.
Yeah, I thought it was
This whole time,
another movie.
I was so confused. I was like, why are they remaking a sequel?
That's what
Yeah.
Nemesis looks like.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah, that's what he looked like in the movie.
No, wait. Resident Evil started out as a video game and then
Yeah.
became a movie.
Yeah.
With Mila
Mila
Jokovic.
Jovovich.
Oh.
So this is a video game that is a remake of a video game.
Yeah, so
Correct.
basically
Does that seem dumb to anyone but me?
no. So this is a thing that is very popular now. Is remakes and remasters of video games. It's like in the last 2 years or so, it's become a huge craze, and basically, studios are remaking their games, which is basically like you get the game, but it's got all of the latest in hardware, in graphics, and updating the quality of life elements of the game. Because back in the day, you remember playing games for the whatever, the Super Nintendo or the PlayStation or the N64 or whatever, and at the time they were amazing, and to a certain degree they still are amazing. But because video games have gone through such an evolution, both graphically as well as mechanically, you go back and play those games and you're like, while I do enjoy this, there are certain elements of this game that are really frustrating now compared to modern games. So they'll remake the game and they'll fix all those things. So they'll make and for instance, for Resident Evil 3, the Resident Evil games were notable for the first, second, and third games had this thing called tank controls, which was where, no matter what angle you were in the game, you'd walk through the game and like you'd walk into one room and the angle would be like kind of like over his head, kind of pointing down at him like this. Mm-hmm. And then you would walk into another room and the camera would switch to like being in front of him. So it was like constructed cinematically so that when you would walk through rooms, it was kind of like you were watching a movie. But no matter what angle you were at, the controls were still the same. Pushing forward makes Kirk go forward. Pushing right makes Kirk go right. Pushing left makes him go left. And pushing back makes him turn around and go the other way. So if you walk into a room when you're angled on them from the right, pushing forward still makes them go forward. But if you go into another room where it's pointing at the front of him, pushing forward still makes him go forward. So sometimes it would be kind of disorienting, where as you're going from room to room, as the perspective changes, the controls are still the same. And so sometimes you get confused where you would like, if you're angled on him front ways, you want to press like back to make him go forward because it's like making him come towards you. And this was kind of like a signature part of Resident Evil that like it made the game disorienting, so that like you'd walk into a room and there'd be zombies and you'd be like, oh fuck, and you'd be trying to control your character and it would be kind of hard and it would make the game sort of scarier and more suspenseful. Some people like it and think that it's a integral part of the game, and some people hate it and think the tank controls in Resident Evil are shitty. In Resident Evil 4, they completely overhauled the control system to be over the shoulder. So the camera's always over your shoulder. When you control your character through an analog stick, and it's always just like when you push forward, the character goes forward. When you push left, it goes left. When you push right, it goes right. And that perspective never changes. The camera's always over the shoulder. A lot of people say that made the game less scary and suspenseful and cinematic, but a lot of people say that the controls are way better and it's just a better game. So they remade Resident Evil 2, which is my favorite Resident Evil game, last year. In 2018, and it was hugely popular because Resident Evil 2 is basically like the most popular game in the series. And basically what they did was that they remade that game, but with modern day graphics, as well as the Resident Evil 4 game mechanics, so the over-the-shoulder system. And they're doing the same thing with Resident Evil 3. Resident Evil 3 was notable for, it was similar to the previous two games, except for every time you walked into a room, there was a percentage chance that Nemesis was going to be in the room and he was going to chase you. In the Resident Evil games, when you go into a room, if there's zombies, they can't follow you into a different room. So you can always escape, but Nemesis was the only enemy that can follow you into other rooms. So if you walk into a room and Nemesis is there and you go, oh shit, and you try to leave, he'll come with you to the other room and he'll chase you until the time runs out and he like basically gets tired and leaves. Like it like really triggered my anxiety.
So they're changing that, you're saying?
Well, no, it's still gonna be the thing where you walk into a room and there's Nemesis and then he can follow you and stuff. But they're changing the game mechanic with the over the shoulder, and they're just basically doing what they did with Resident Evil 2 and being like, okay, you guys loved Resident Evil 2 and everyone bought it and we made millions and millions and millions of dollars. So now we're going to do it with Resident Evil 3.
Why not just do a new game but have those better controls?
Oh, they do that as well. I mean, there's at this point there's 7 Resident Evils in addition to all the side games and things like that. But those, it's the same thing with reboots. It's basically the video game version of reboots. Okay. They're discovering that it's more of a sure thing to remake or remaster a classic game and it's guaranteed to sell versus coming out with a new game, especially new IP.
That feels. I'm not a gamer by any means, but for some reason that seems really sad. Like you figure, like video games would be the one place you'd be like, just try something new. You just go crazy. You can figure out something that's really interesting and unique. But it's the same thing as like any other entertainment.
The
field.
video game industry is almost worse.
Wow, I didn't think that would be the case.
Video game industry rarely takes chances on new IP. Everything is just a sequel to a long running franchise. Like all the games that come out are something in the Mario line of games, or it's a new Resident Evil game, or it's a new Call of Duty game, or it's a new
NBA 2K or something.
Yeah, or it's a new something in one of the sports
Okay.
lines.
Yeah, I get it.
Or it's a new Pokemon game. Everything, like there's rarely new IP.
When did Red Dead come out?
That came out in like 2010, I think. Something like, I forget exactly, but Red Dead Redemption came out in 2010. Red Dead Redemption was a sequel to a game called Red Dead Revolver that came out in 2006 or 5. So that was a sequel to a game that came out when I was in high school.
And it's all just GTA.
Yeah.
And also
2004.
Yeah, Red Dead Redemption has the added benefit of being like, it's from Rockstar. So they basically were like, here's Western Grand Theft Auto. So everyone bought it just based on that.
I'm trying to think of a new concept for a game right now, and I'm real basic.
Well, one of the most notable ones. So a game studio called Platinum Games, they make like the Bayonetta games, and he came out with a game called Vanquish, and they're kind of like a smaller studio, but they were notable for earlier this year. They came out with they did a game called Astral Chain, and it was a huge deal because it was like, Platinum Games is this kind of small studio. They don't usually get a lot of money to make their games, and Nintendo like invested heavily in this game with the stipulation that it was made exclusive for the Nintendo Switch. It was a big deal because it was like a new idea. Like new idea games are very rare. So when Astral Chain came out, it was like, holy shit, like Nintendo is spending millions of dollars helping Platinum Games produce this game that's not based on existing IP. It's a new original concept. And it came out and it was big. It did really well. It sold very well. And it's a great game. I have it. I have 20 hours into it.
Ooh. Very cool.
It's really good. It's basically the concept of it is that you are a police officer in this like future world where like 90% of the world has been overtaken by this like data virus, and there's these small little like dome cities that have been created to keep the infection out, but like enemies from the astral realm, which is this like alternate realm that has enveloped the world, get into the dome cities, and then you have to basically fight them.
Instead of making movies out of books, let's start making video games out of books. I'm talking 1984, the game. I'm talking The Fountainhead, the game.
They used to do that a lot back in the 80s and 90s. There was like this point and click adventure game called I Have No Mouth But I Must Scream, which was based on a Harlan Ellison short story.
Wow.
And there's other examples of that. But yeah, they actually did do like book video games, but they were like really like obscure things that like only like I would have played.
I want to do Metamorphosis, the game where you actually like grow a chrysalis and become a cocoon and then emerge but you gotta wait the whole 2 months on the game. You gotta wake up every day, put the hours in.
So it's like a Kafka-esque Digimon.
Yes, I love that idea.
I'd love to see that.
Oh my god, you learn something new every day. Like you get a little
That's
bit
amazing.
Of it. That's a free one.
That's
boys.
the best idea you've ever had.
I like it.
It made up for you knocking down the
A
picture.
Franz Kafka Digimon.
Yes.
I have a question relevant to The Last Starfighter. But it's,
Going back 3 topics.
Yeah.
okay, no. First of all, it was the last topic. Second of all, I was thinking of this because people talking about video games kind of is the same as people talking about their dreams to me. It's just sort of, there's no plot. It's just this very abstract scene where there's no storyline. It's just lots going on.
Well, there's definitely a storyline in Astral Chain. I just didn't mention it.
But I'm talking about, I'm not saying the video game itself has no storyline.
okay.
People talking about video games. Anyways.
Well, but that's the distinction there is that by definition, there is literally no one else in the world who can be interested in your dream. Like
Right.
there is nobody other than you that could ever relate to that, and that's why it's kind of pointless and dumb to tell people about your dreams. But there are tons of people who would be interested in this talk about video games.
Right.
It just
I'm
have to
ju-
be into it.
I'm saying for me personally. So, are movies about people getting through situations via their game skills a fantasy for people who play video games that their video gaming skills are applicable in reality?
100%. That's what the Last Starfighter is like. It's like power fantasy for nerds of like, you get bullied at school and you aren't physically strong, you're not a hero, people beat you up. But what if all of the things that you are good at actually made you a hero? What if being good at video games could make you the commander of a fleet in a space war?
So, do you think the video game skills do have application to reality? Do you think your gaming skills have brought you something in
If
reality?
wars were fought like this.
Well, they
Yeah.
are. They are.
Yeah,
But
drones, I
but
guess.
yeah, I mean, one benefit of playing video games is that it increases your hand-eye coordination.
Yeah.
And also secondarily, whilst The Last Starfighter is very much a fantasy hyper-realistic version of this, there is something to be said about the fact that most of our combat is literally people playing a video game where the video game is controlling a drone
drone, yeah.
that bombs
Crazy.
people.
Could be therapeutic too, like playing Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah.
Like, you don't do that in real life, but you could do it in a game.
So I assume the consensus here is that video games don't make you more violent. So how do you feel about video games and violence? How does that? Obviously, I mean, I would assume that people here don't believe that playing video games makes you violent, but how does that work into your sense of what does that allow you for by being violent in video games?
I don't play video games. I don't know. So
I mean, I think some people think that it's like a way to vent that frustration or something like that. Of like, I doubt the validity of that. Like, I don't think that there's somebody out there who's like, if I didn't play Grand Theft Auto, I totally would have shot up my school, but it gave me that outlet for venting that. I don't think that is legit. I think that if you are somebody who is capable of wanting to go to your school with a gun and shoot people, I think that you need to seek help
Yeah.
and have that corrected in a very medical way.
So I have a theory that it's more about chaos and that we live in an organized society, but this is also connected to the fact that we are animals and we have animalistic instincts. And so we live in this extremely organized society, but our rate of evolution isn't the same as the rate that we've actually organized ourselves. And so it's a way to live out this sense of chaos that we don't actually need or want in our organized lives.
what?
I 100% agree with that.
Organized?
Yeah, like we get up and we go to work and we try to be decent people and we form family units and that sort of thing.
Oh.
This sort of sense of
It
routine.
just doesn't make sense to me. The thought that the world or our society is organized doesn't make any sense. to
That
me.
is
It doesn't
feel
feel organized. Like the
It's-
way that we run society, I get that things are compartmentalized and we do certain things. in a
Nostalgia
row,
podcast.
But yeah, so,
Nostalgia
not
podcast,
to
guys.
fall too far, but
the whole purpose of a society is to organize things. That's just
it just doesn't feel like
that's
we're
what
doing
society
that.
is.
Okay. Moreover, what I was trying to get at is I feel like you could do that. You could say that about like any form of entertainment. Like books can be violent. You could have
I think it's different because
Video games are interactive.
Yeah, that and also
Books and
if you have enough of imagination, you can get that
Books-
far into books, can't
books,
you?
TV, and movies are passive entertainment, and video games are an interactive form of entertainment.
But they used to make the same cases for like violent movies that you would let your kids watch, like that. It informs them that it's okay to do these things.
Well,
But it's all wrong.
all of that stuff is bullshit.
Right.
It's like there's no logic behind it because it's just people scapegoating their own shitty parenting
Yeah.
on something else. It's
Okay.
just people being like, "Oh, my kid isn't bad because of me. It's because they watched this." It's like, no. It's like if somebody shoots up a school, it's your fault.
It is,
You
yes.
failed them in some major way.
I
But yeah,
played San Andreas, but
Mhm.
all I did for most of it was workout.
in the game
game.
or
Why?
while you were playing.
No, in the game.
Oh,
some
okay.
people play
Why?
like that.
I
Some-
just wanted to see how big I could get my guy.
Oh my
that's
gosh.
That's what I
the
did.
good that's the good thing about open world sandbox games is that you can play it any way that you want. Some people play the game where they go and they do the missions and they do what they need to do. some people go around just like murdering people and just being like, I want to use this as a way of going around and murdering people. Some people use it to do crazy stunts where they're like, what if I ramped off of this thing and then I somehow like landed in this parking spot, and then they do that shit. And then some people like literally just like, it's like a walking simulator where they're just like, I'm going to walk through traffic or walk through the sidewalk and like avoid bumping into people and like go to work and like go into this restaurant and like order food and like I just see how much I can like just live a normal life in this game.
Those
you can
people
play it
scare
any
me.
way you
I
want.
got my guy really cut.
That would scare me. Seeing somebody play a video game, especially like San Andreas that way,
People do that.
that's scary.
But just to really quickly, I totally agree with that. I think that in so many ways, we as a society like find little moments to act out the like chaos that's constantly bubbling underneath the surface of like what we pretend is our civility. Wading through tons of stories week after week. This is what I do it for. This is what really appeals to me.
Oh boy.
Like I couldn't give two shits about a half-baked 2, but this is what I do it for. A bunch of lost Ray Harryhausen scripts and illustrations were uncovered. I'm assuming just found in his house or something like that. All of these lost illustrations and writings are being compiled into a book. And if you don't know, Ray Harryhausen is a legendary stop-motion artist who did all of this groundbreaking stop-motion work back in the 60s and 70s, or 50s, 60s, and 70s. You know, notably, he did all of the work for Clash of the Titans and Jason and the Argonauts. These just amazing fantasy epic films from the 50s, 60s, and 70s that featured this just groundbreaking stop motion animation work. And he was it. Like he is the greatest stop motion animator of all time. One of the most influential artists when it comes to science fiction, fantasy, or special effects in general. He had such a prolific body of work that, you know, they basically have uncovered all of these lost illustrations and writings that were never produced. But in addition to that, utilizing these hundreds of sketches, notes, and writings, there's basically this like lost film that he was developing called Force of the Trojans. There's a screenplay for it. There's all these sketches and concept pieces and all these things. And so based on these, John Walsh, who is one of the trustees of the Ray and Diana Harryhausen Foundation, is trying to develop this into a movie. If this happens, such a great idea. And I'm so here for it.
And they'll call that movie For Andrew.
Yes.
Yeah.
Didn't expect anyone in this room to know who Ray Harryhausen was. Didn't expect to go too in detail about this.
I know Clash of Titans and Jason and the Argonauts. Those
Oh.
are
Yeah,
great.
I know Jason.
Those
the
are great.
Argonauts, that's it.
Well-
I know Clash of the Titans. Hold on a minute.
More
The
importantly,
original, right?
Andrew, I'm happy for you.
If you
Yeah.
know Clash of the Titans, if you know Jason and the Argonauts, then you know the work of Ray Harryhausen.
It's good stuff.
That's it for that. I'm super excited. I hope that movie gets made. I hope it's really good. I hope it's sort of respectful to the legacy of Ray Harryhausen. I can't hope too much that they're going to make it with all stop motion. It's probably going to be CGI, but at least they're doing something like this. I think it would be great. We're going to take a quick break, and then afterwards, we're going to live react to the Wonderwoman 1984 and I almost said Purple Rain, and the Ghostbusters Afterlife trailers.
Pew pew.
All right, so this past week, the trailer for Wonder Woman 1984 dropped, and this is nostalgic for a variety of reasons. It's Wonder Woman, and also it takes place in 1984.
How'd they choose the year? Do you know?
It's pretty
I
significant.
can't. Todd, do you know? Do you have any insight into that?
Research guy.
Yeah.
Goddamn right they
it's-
do.
I mean, it's definitely based on like a trend now, where it's like, you know, like Thor Ragnarok had that like really 80s like looking logo, and it's like just this aesthetic that people are into right now.
You know, they're just like slyly giving away the plot, like it's going to be against the government.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
1984. Yeah, so we're gonna let's watch it. And
Yeah.
has anyone watched this already?
Absolutely.
I've
did.
already
No.
seen it, but
100%.
let's check it out. So a couple of us have already seen it, and a couple of
Thrice
us haven't
over
seen it
now.
yet. This is going in cold or
Golden
going in hot?
lukewarm.
I don't know.
Going in medium.
My life hasn't been what you probably think it has. We all have our struggles.
I still haven't even actually seen the first Wonder Woman,
Well, it's good.
OMG,
but
Kristen Wiig.
I'm down with
know.
Kristen Wiig with
Always.
80s hair and glasses.
Whoa.
I'd go Kristen Wiig over Gal Gadot
Yeah,
any day of the week.
same.
No.
Blue Monday.
Blue Monday is the reason why this trailer's fucking great. Although I think this is a remake. I don't think this is the original.
Yeah, it's definitely a remake.
Yeah.
But it's not the orgy cover from the late 90s.
God, that cover's so bad.
Got Pedro Pascal in here.
Yeah.
He's a bad guy in Wonder Woman and The Mandalorian.
Fuck it.
Dominating.
He's a bad guy in The Mandalorian?
No. And he's the Mandalorian.
Oh, okay.
Although maybe he is. We haven't seen the whole season.
Ooh, Cassio?
This guy.
There's a scene in this coming
Chris
up
Pine.
that is
Chris Pine.
there's a scene coming up in this that was designed to become a meme. I guarantee they did it on purpose. They're like, there is going to be memes from this.
Chris Pine is Captain America, right?
No.
No, that's Chris Evans.
Oh, I get so
Chris Pine is
confused
Captain Kirk.
between the Chris's.
There's a lot of Chris's.
All the Chris's.
It kind of reminds me the whole. I mean, I don't really know the full plot of this yet, but the whole thing of like Kristen Wiig's character, like, is kind of like a friend of Wonder Woman and kind of like looks up to her, and then she seems to like get spited by her in some way, and it turns her into a villain. It reminds me of Iron Man 3. It reminds me of the bad guy in that, where he's like in the 90s he tries to like pitch Tony Stark his idea, and he like ignores him, and then he becomes a bad guy.
Whoa.
WWE.
Okay.
Oh, so what was the meme? Oh.
This.
Oh, yeah.
Dad, that's just the trash can. It's just a trash can. Yeah.
That was made to become a meme.
Absolutely.
Where you just put whatever thing you hate.
And it's just
Yeah,
Over the
this is
trash
the trash
can.
can. Or it wasn't, and you just made the best meme of the year and ruined it.
No, I've already seen the memes have already started rolling.
Oh,
I
okay.
already see them.
Gotcha.
But I knew the moment that I watched it, I was like, if you could be a fly on the wall of that marketing team of like whether or not they shot the scene on purpose to be a meme, maybe they did, maybe they didn't, but definitely they put that in the trailer because they were like, this is going to become a meme.
free marketing.
All hail Uma Thurman. But I thought I saw it. I was like, oh, she's Ivy. That's what I thought. But then she's Cheetah or something like that.
Yeah.
Wait, what are you saying?
Wait,
I thought Kristen Wiig was gonna play Poison Ivy.
Oh.
And I got really cool vibes about it. I was like, oh,
Do
nice.
we know who she's playing?
Yeah, it's the
Cheetah.
Is it the cheetah? Is that what it's? I'm like very unknowledgeable of DC.
And Cheetah is a villain. Oh, I like this even more now.
Yeah, I am
Yeah.
very much surprised by the casting choice of Kristen Wiig, but very excited by it.
Yeah, I'm here for that.
And it's because it's definitely not something that you would expect to be in her wheelhouse, but I'm very interested to see how she does with this.
Yeah. Speaking of different pronunciations of names, which we were talking about earlier off mic, Gal Gadot.
That's a big one, yeah.
Godot is like the way of like that's. I think that's like the
French?
whatever the French pronunciation or whatever. I don't know what the etymology of that is, but since she's Israeli, it's pronounced Gadot. Yeah, it looks pretty. I mean, I haven't seen the first one.
That's crazy.
But
though.
it looks pretty good.
Is there a specific reason you haven't seen it?
When it came out in theaters, I had like a 4-month-old or a 6-month-old or whatever. I don't remember when that came out exactly, but yeah, whenever you have a kid, you just don't see movies.
That's very true.
So I know that the costume is in the comic book. This is the outfit. But I still think the outfit is kind of silly. And I know that it has to be that because that's what it is.
Wait, do you mean the full gilded one that she's in at the like the midway?
No, not the full suit, the kind of classic Wonder Woman
Oh, okay.
suit. Does anyone else think it's silly?
I don't. She's the most powerful woman in the world. Most powerful person probably on Earth.
Yeah,
at this time.
She doesn't need
She
armor.
doesn't need it.
So it's like one of those things where a lot of times people criticize female costumes because it's like, why would somebody who's like in battle wear such a revealing thing when they need full armor? She doesn't need armor because she's basically a god. But
Saying that I'm actually not even talking about because she's a woman and revealing and all of that. I just find it to be kind of, I guess this is the whole point, is that it's frivolous, and all these superhero movies are like that. It's kind of this over the top about this appearance of being this kind of glamorous superhuman person, and so the outfit is kind of obviously not realistic. It's like they have to have outfits that make them stand out from regular people.
it's complicated because I love when they do the costume accurate to the actual comic. Like I don't like. I mean, as much as I love the first two X-Men movies, very very good movies, in and of themselves, but they popularize the whole concept of like, let's make their costumes more realistic and more like real for a movie. So instead of having like Wolverine in the yellow spandex, he's just gonna wear this like leather suit, and his hair is gonna be kind of like spiked up in kind of the Wolverine shape. And I think that's so dumb. I think if you're going to make a comic book movie, make it like the comic book, make the characters look authentic and accurate. And like, in like Spider-Man Far From Home, like it's so cool that Mysterio looks like Mysterio. Like they didn't do some weird realistic depiction of Mysterio's costume. Like he just looks like Mysterio, and that's really cool. And I think the Wonder Woman costume looks cool and iconic. The history of the political history of that is kind of complicated because Wonder Woman was created by a guy, and she was created as sort of this like fetish character. Like it was all about like bondage, and like she would tie people up in the rope, the lasso of truth. And the guy who created Wonder Woman was like really into bondage.
So she's like a dominatrix.
Yeah, and so that character was created through this male gaze of like this fetishized bondage person.
Mm-hmm.
But in the intervening years, she has sort of been reclaimed as a feminist icon.
Yeah.
And I think the idea behind her look in the movies is like sort of that third wave feminism concept of taking that back and weaponizing her sexuality. So it's like, it's complicated. It's like that character is not perfectly one thing or the other. She's not perfectly a feminist icon. She's like this complicated character with this history of like started out kind of weird and then was sort of reclaimed. And in that way, I think it's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of accuracy, I'm here for it a lot because I like the first Wonder Woman, and I love the 80s because they were the best decade. I look at it and go, is that really 1984? Some of that stuff really wasn't. That was more like 1986. And I get that every time we do 80s movies, as I'll go, was that really that time period? And it's such a shitty thing to do, but I can't help myself, and I should just let it go. But I will be looking through the movie going, that's not 1984.
You should be.
Yeah.
You should have been on.
I
the
think that
set.
happens a
I
lot.
should have been.
Again, back to the, I think the more of a book reference. Whenever, or not whenever, but most when I saw Pedro Pascal in scenes, he was on a TV screen, which I think is going back
Tyler,
to
TV existed in the 80s.
Fuck. But it goes back to like monitors everywhere and Big Brother again. I think it's something more along that line. So I don't think it's a specific 1984 movie. I think it's just kind of.
If I see a date that says
Okay, guys,
1984,
you're right. My bad. You're right. That's on me.
I will flip tables.
Well, it's kind of like, I think this happens a lot, but that's kind of like in The Wedding Singer, like all the 80s references.
Yeah.
Like they're all over the place.
They're
and it's
horrible.
Like he just lives that movie takes place in a universe that's just like in a vacuum of like, this is the 80s. Like no specific time, just the 80s.
Yeah, and I hate that.
Yeah.
Check out my fan theory on that.
But I think this will probably be pretty accurate. I'm excited.
It's
for
exciting.
I'm
yeah.
excited too.
Yeah, I'm way excited. I think I'm more excited for it than the first one.
Me too.
Oh, look at us.
Team Kurt.
But you guys are only so
Team
excited because the
Julia.
first one was
Thanks.
so good.
I didn't see the first one.
God damn.
I really liked the first one. I did think it was a little long, but I did enjoy it.
Okay.
But I'm more excited about this.
Okay.
Honestly, so I started watching the first one, just sort of that opening scene. I think I was just like, not tonight. I don't think I'm gonna watch it.
You missed Robin Wright being
That's
fucking awesome.
Oh, she was great.
But okay, so I looked it up, and it looks like she's playing a different character in this. But she's also
Robin
in this,
Wright is in this movie playing a different character.
When I looked it up, she had a different name, but maybe she's like playing a persona that character has in this new time. But her name is not what it is when she was on the island.
Oh, that's really interesting.
I could be wrong.
Huh.
Now we're gonna watch another trailer that dropped this week is the trailer for Ghostbusters Afterlife. I think maybe we all watched this, or we were definitely talking about it.
I specifically did not watch this. 'cause
I didn't
wanted
watch
to
it.
Lou,
watch
did
it.
you
So
watch
you guys
it?
were
I didn't see it
commenting
yet.
on it
Oh.
without actually having
I
watched
didn't.
it.
I didn't comment on it. No.
I saw it.
I didn't comment either.
I
Well,
definitely.
anyway,
held my
I
breath.
watched this trailer, and just spoiler alert, I was like, "Fuck yeah!" But everyone else seemed to have like kind of like almost a negative opinion. And I was like, "You guys are." I did not expect for anybody else to like have a negative opinion about this because I was down. Let's check it out.
Wait, does this one have Kristen Wiig in it?
Every character is played by Kristen Wiig in this.
Oh shit.
But actually, no. To your point, I'll point out a part where not only is that movie stricken from the timeline, but they go out of their way to be like, that movie never happened. And I'll show you the exact moment when it happens. I love how the girl like looks kind of like Janine. I love that her look is just clearly inspired by Janine.
Ooh.
I love that it takes place in like a small town. It's actually kind of funny. It's weird because this movie must have been in development around the time. Well, it's so.
Hey, remember that one summer we died under a table?
This is my worst fear living in California.
Yeah,
That we're all going to be under tables.
well, being on our table is the best case scenario.
I know, but it's still an
Right here.
earthquake.
So right here. So that's like that line is like specifically like
because
Ghostbusters 2016 didn't happen. Like it's like going out of its way to be like that movie never existed.
Oh, this girl is like based off of Sigourney Weaver's character.
No, she's based off of Egon.
Oh, I don't know.
In fact, I think she's
They say about her
she's
dad.
Egon's daughter.
Yeah.
Which I love. I love that they made it where Egon, you know, in the movie, Egon passed away because you know Harold Ramis passed away in real life, so he's the only non-returning Ghostbuster. But I love that it takes place in a small town. I love that it's kids as Ghostbusters. It's just like everything about this is up my alley.
It reminds me a little bit of It.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has the vibe of like It and Stranger Things and like that throwback vibe. Although it does take place in present day instead of the 80s.
But I think small towns have that kind of past feel.
Yeah,
Whoa. Sick.
like I shit my pants when I saw this.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's really cool.
So down.
That looks cool.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I'm sure this movie was like in development alongside it because they came out or they're coming out like kind of around the same time. I thought it was interesting that this movie is basically taking this franchise that took place in New York and then it's moving it to a small Oklahoma town, which is exactly what Watchmen did. The Watchmen took place in New York, and then you know it's about that world, but in Tulsa. So I just thought that was an interesting parallel. But yeah, what did everyone else think about it? Because I was like, I was sold from like moment one.
I don't have the same attachment to the original Ghostbusters that I think you probably do. So, I mean, I'm excited. It definitely feels like this is kind of like the reboot/remake style that I was talking about that I would like to see, which is it has similar themes, but it's clearly a new story. It's clearly a fresh take. There are a lot of elements that make it a new story that still maintain some of the nostalgic elements.
Yeah, in no way does it feel like a Bill Murray Ghostbusters. And it's continuing off of that, which is cool. I like that, yeah.
I kind of wanted that, but
The Bill
I
Murray.
like that too, though.
I like the style. I just don't think it would work nowadays anyway.
I'm not here for it.
Whoa.
But with it, I'm going to throw down some caveats.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hit him with a
I'm
caveat.
going to hit with the caveats. It's not for me. I can see why it's good. It looks really like it's going to be a good movie, but it's a movie I don't want to see because I'm not interested in that style of supernatural paranormal stories. It's just not the story for me. I'm being delicate, Andrew. I can be worse.
Don't be delicate, be worse.
He's being real Gen X.
I'm being
right
real
now,
Gen
so,
X
yeah.
now. I'm aware of your feelings, and I acknowledge your feelings. But it's not. First of all, the 2016 Ghostbusters was great. Fuck
Yeah.
anyone who says
Yeah.
that it's
I
not.
didn't
That's
say
a
it.
piece
I
of
did.
shit.
Yeah, I liked
I know
the-
you didn't. I know
yeah.
you liked it because we talked about it. But that's a great fucking movie.
Can we talk about that for a second? Why did that movie?
Why? There's no, you know the answer.
Because people who saw the original were like,
'Cause-
this is not the original.
No,
Toxic
incels.
masculinity.
No, because
Oh.
that's the phrase is you go woke, you go broke. There are a bunch of people, fanboy, neckbeard nerds, who grew up in the 80s and 90s. You know, somebody who around my or even Kirk's age, like we could very well be these type of people. It's our age range who are just like, this is like a thing that was like good when I was a kid, and now people are just trying to like make it PC by like making like putting women and like black people in it, and it's just like they're doing it for like forced diversity, and like and they're angry about it.
Yeah.
So how does that population affect whether it bombs or not? Because aren't there people like us who are like, great?
Did it bomb?
And no, it didn't bomb.
It didn't
I
bomb.
thought that it did.
It kind of it didn't do great, but it didn't bomb. The idea of it bombing was very exaggerated. Like it was like confirmation bias of like the movie didn't do great.
Can we look at the
and
reviews?
It's definitely better than Ghostbusters 2. That movie
Yeah,
sucks.
Ghostbusters 2 fucking
It's
sucks.
fucking trash, except for the theme song because it's Bobby Brown. But it's a trash movie. This actually looks really good, but I am just not interested.
144 million budget and 229 million worldwide.
Yeah,
Okay.
So it made
didn't-
money.
Yeah,
Okay,
it
so it did
didn't
make
bomb, but it didn't do amazing, and so that narrative was
Okay.
shifted into it bombed by people who were just wanting it to bomb,
Yeah. Okay.
and it also got review bombed,
Yeah.
which is a thing that happens now, where if you don't like something about a thing, if you don't like that it's being, quote unquote, forcibly diversified or whatever, you just you make a concerted effort to have all of your incel friends go and like give it bad reviews, which unfavorably skew the reviews to the negative, even though you haven't even seen the movie.
So I also felt like the 2016 Ghostbusters was funnier than the original Ghostbusters
I would agree.
because all of those characters were funny, and so the dynamic was much more spread out. Whereas in the original Ghostbusters, I felt that Bill Murray was definitely the comedic stronghold of the movie.
I mean, I don't personally agree with that. I don't
agree
think
with
that,
that.
I don't think that the new one was funnier than the original, and I think that they were all funny in their own right. It was just kind of like a more understated comedy. Like I think that Dan Aykroyd is very funny, but he's not like a goofy Bill Murray over the top funny kind of guy. It's more subtle, and I think that Egon is my favorite character, and I think he's the
That
funniest.
tracks.
I think he's the funniest character. Like just the idea of like, this is like that time that you tried to drill a hole in your head. That would have worked if you hadn't stopped me. I think that's hilarious.
Best
That's
line.
I think his character is very
Absolutely.
funny. That's not to say that the new one is bad or whatever.
So is Afterlife going to be funny, do we think?
It seems like it's not going to be as
Right.
comedic
I'm sure
as
Yeah.
I feel like they're gonna rely heavily on that Flynn kid, whatever his name is, because people think he's like super funny in Stranger Things.
I was thinking they would rely
Finn
on...
Wolfhard.
Finn, thank you. But
Oh, right.
Feels
I
like Paul Rudd's playing it pretty straight.
yeah,
Oh.
I think he's just a pure dad character.
Oh.
Yeah,
hmm.
I haven't. Since they're not doing anything with the Kristen Wiig one, just put just one other person, drop everybody else, add a gorilla, make them hunt ghosts.
Oh yeah, they do.
I'm telling you.
There you go.
They do the ghost,
Still
the
Ghost-
Ghost Space Busters movie.
I do think it's such a smart move to not be like, let's get a bunch of young male comedians and put in Ghostbusters this version, and we'll make it real funny and dirty and whatever. The fact that they did a complete 180 take on it, I think, is really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think that has a lot to do with the fact that Jason Reitman is directing it, and like Jason Reitman is more known for doing these kind of like more understated kind of like indie character dramas. And I'm actually not a huge fan of Jason Reitman.
What is he known for?
He directed
Juno,
Juno. He
Up in the
directed
Air.
Up in the
I
Air.
love all those.
I'm not a huge fan of his
Big fan.
movies. Young Adult.
Young
Like,
Adult's
I
great.
hated Young Adult.
Oh,
Young Adult
fuck
is
off.
a
It's
terrible
good.
movie.
No, it's a
I
great
liked-
movie that you don't understand.
I do understand
Up
it.
in
Nope,
the
and-
Air.
you lack the
I
capacity.
didn't. I can't
central
watch
conceit-
Juno anymore.
The central conceit of Young Adult is that whenever somebody is a terrible person, you have to accept them, which is so antithetical to what I believe in that if somebody's a bad person, you should cut them out of your life because it's super toxic to have to accept people that are bad.
I think you saw a different movie.
No, that's literally what Young Adult
I
is
gotta
about.
watch this.
Agree to
movie now.
disagree.
But I think that that's what is informing that of like, you know, he's not a big comedy blockbuster director like his dad was, or like anybody that you would get to direct a Ghostbusters movie. He makes sort of these like character drama type movies. And also I think it's inspired or informed by kind of following in a bit of that popular pattern that's happening right now with the It's and the Stranger Things movies of kind of like the throwback fantasy thriller.
What do you think causes throwback culture? The fact that we're really unhappy with our current culture. So
Go back to episode 2.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean there's
Go back to episode 2.
there's
It was better.
There's a meme that I saw that kind of encapsulates it, where it was somebody's tweet or whatever, where they said, I don't know who needs to hear this right now, but just throwing this out there, you don't love Disney. You just haven't been happy since you were 11.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
that's what I was thinking.
What's the over/under on Bill Murray actually showing up in this movie at the end?
He's in the movie.
Oh, Bill Murray's
No,
in the movie?
the
He's
entire
confirmed.
cast except for Harold Ramis is
Oh.
no, the entire cast except for Harold Ramis, who's dead,
Right.
and Rick Moranis is in the movie.
Oh,
Oh.
shit! I didn't,
How come they weren't
damn!
in the
I thought
trailer?
like that was what?
How come they weren't in the trailer?
Because I think they're going to be very side. They're not going to be they're going to be like
They're gonna be like playing
Extend-
chess.
they're going to be
while
like extended cameos.
Johnny Depp in 21 Jump Street, the movie. Like that's what I'm thinking.
Okay, that was a good
I think it's gonna
cameo.
be be bigger than that.
Oh,
I think they're
okay.
going to be more integral to the movie, but they're definitely going to be like 15 to 20 minutes of screen time.
Oh, okay, I like that.
But yeah, I love the idea. I mean, it's funny because like it's funny how this whole like throwback 80s like kids on an adventure thing is like so in my strike zone and so like my vibe. You can sort of look at it two ways. One way is like the type of thing that's happening right now, the type of aesthetic that's popular right now is like so in my wheelhouse. But secondarily, like as somebody who's like a writer and has like written things and wanted to get things made, it's also kind of like, oh man, like I was like really wanting to do stuff like this, and then it kind of like happened without me, and like I wasn't able to be involved with it because I wrote a pilot for a Stranger Things type show before Stranger Things existed, and when Stranger Things came out, it was like this simultaneous like bittersweet thing of like, oh, this is so fucking awesome, but also fuck, like this is the thing that I wrote.
So correct me if I'm wrong, and I just want to get a feel for it.
Wrong.
Thank you. Like back in the day, like Stand By Me, the whole thing is about the journey
Yeah.
and becoming the best of friends and stuff, and realizing that. I don't feel like they have that feeling in the movies nowadays. Like it's about like they do a lot of stuff in the journey to get to it, but at the end of Stand By Me, like nobody wins. Like there's like a conflict, and then you grow together, but ultimately like it's bittersweet because you had to pull a gun on somebody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And now at the end
And
of this,
also, River Phoenix gets stabbed to death in a bar fight.
no,
Not in
is
real
that
life.
That's,
In
that's,
the
I know
movie.
that's like it's so like sad.
That's the catalyst for the story.
Wait, so what is this point making about?
It's just
Ghostbusters?
nowadays, it's kind of you lose that feel when you try to get like they're trying to get that vibe back of all these kids like enjoying something together, but really it's just like it's about them getting to the end of the movie, not them
Well, the first
learning
season-
everything together in between it.
The first season of Stranger Things was totally that way. Like the second and third haven't been as much, but the first season was just totally about the friendship, which
Right.
I loved. I'm obsessed with
Bonding.
friendship bonding in storytelling. It's like my favorite thing. My Facebook page literally says my little like about me thing. I like telling stories about robots and friendship.
Yeah, but when I invite you to go see a dead body, you're at home with your kids. What is that?
That's not friendship. That's
Oh.
you trying to frame me for a murder.
Wait, why do you like that so much? Like the bonding thing in movies?
Why do you like friendship so much?
I don't want to
No,
tell.
like in the
Why do you like
storyline.
bondage?
Whenever I tell you, it's just going to be very sad,
Nah,
and it's not going to
Oh
be.
no. Just
Well,
what's the sad thing?
It's
Oh,
interesting
no.
that it's robots and friendship because robots are these very stereotypically unfeeling, non-human entities that we are obsessed with comparing to humans.
but that's it.
And
Like
then-
that.
No,
that's
I
a
mean-
stereotype of robots.
That's exactly what I.
But you said it. That's what I mean. It's
That's
like,
what I just said.
That's not how robots would really be.
So to
Anyways,
Just to think about the.
So
Let me
reality of it.
continue my point. As you just repeated it. But then also friendship is this something that we stereotypically associate with extreme. It's the crux of humanity is like bonding with others and having emotions and that sort of thing. Like writing is about the human existence. I'm just saying it's an interesting character study of you.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't. You guys didn't hear it because it was separate from our main recording of the podcast, and you guys don't listen to this fucking podcast, so of course you didn't hear it.
What do you mean? I listen
But
to
on
this
the
podcast.
episode
Listen to me.
Dave was on the podcast.
on the episode when we talked about Maniac Cop, I did a side one-on-one interview with my friend Dave, and we talked about the fact that Robert Zadar is his favorite actor because Robert Zadar is this actor who he faced this debilitating physical condition, cherubism, where his body is just thinks that his bones are calcium deficient, so it keeps sending calcium to his jawbone, which causes it to grow to this sort of like distended, sort of deformed capacity where every year his chin just gets bigger and bigger, and he was able to turn that into a benefit for him of like finding this niche as a character actor playing these very like physically interesting looking people, where that was a quality of him of like you wanted to hire Robert Zadar because he had this very interesting looking face that would kind of help you like in a movie like Maniac Cop, where you wanted this really like strange looking person that kind of unsettled you, and then so you hire him because he brings that to it. So he turned this disability into a benefit. And my friend Dave said that it was deeply inspirational to him, and he loved Robert Zadar because in many ways he felt like Robert Zadar looked on the outside how he felt on the inside, which was somebody who I'm sort of like making assumptions based on him saying that, but somebody who just didn't quite feel like he sort of emotionally fit in with other people. And he, the way that he felt about things and the way he processed things was fundamentally different than his peers. And he took that and turned it around and made it a benefit of like, I'm going to take these very strange and sort of like unconventional ways that I feel about things and process information and turn it into telling these really interesting stories. For me, I think the reason why I'm so obsessed with writing about robots is because robots are this very fascinating concept where it's like a robot by essence is something that is created to be as close to human as possible, but as no matter how much they look like a human on the outside, no matter how far you drive them to emulating a human, you can never get it to the point where they will ever be accepted. There's always this buffer, this removal of like, but no matter what, you're still not us. You're still not a person. And
You specifically.
Definitely. No. This is how Andrew's going to tell me he's my creator. He's made
and
me.
so, yeah, I'm Vincent Price and Edward Scissorhands. That's what a lot of robot storytelling is about, is like, you have these human feelings and you feel so powerfully, but no matter what, we're not going to accept you, and you can never fully express those things and have them be accepted by the rest of humanity. And I think I felt like that a lot when I was growing up. I felt very much on the outside. I felt like I was never quite accepted into any of my peer groups. I never really felt like there was always people that I knew and sit with them at school and or whatever. Sometimes people would randomly come over to my house and force me to make them mayonnaise sandwiches, which is an inside deep cut joke that no one will understand. But I never felt like I was accepted by anybody. I always felt like I had all of these complex emotions and ways that I looked at the world that were just sort of like trapped inside of me, and nobody understood them and accepted them. And so, I relate to that idea of being a robot who's like, I was born, and for all intents and purposes, it's like, you exist now, and you have to fit into this world, but nobody ever let me. And in terms of liking to tell stories about friendship, I just didn't have any friends when I was a kid. Friendship dynamic was something that I looked at from the outside, of like seeing other people and being like, how do you get that? Like, how do you get that bond with somebody? I don't know how to do it.
That connects to the robots in a way.
Yeah.
For what I know of people who really enjoy robots, there's like two mindsets: people who want like who feel like they are the robot, and then people who feel like they are the creator. Those are two very different mindsets in people too, and you can see like when they expose that part of them, like you can see like when you're the creator, you have like a need to be able to be in control of this thing and make sure that you have all the knowledge of it, and you're always holding something back from it. But I think a lot of people identify with like your side of it, even if they seem like they're a little more confident in nature. I feel like a lot of people identify as the robot, and I think that's another reason we like robot stories as well.
Yeah. And there's also an element of it of just like as a man or as a boy growing up in the time that I grew up.
You were a man since birth, man.
We weren't really allowed to like have emotions or be emotional about something. That robot theme also kind of hits that of just like growing up in a time where you just kind of had to be like stoic and unemotional about things, and you weren't allowed to cry, and you kind of had to be a robot, or else you were sort of made fun of.
Yeah.
We got real on the start.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
we did.
that's why. Speaking of portraying emotions externally, Purple Rain has been added to the film registry. What do you want to say about that, Kirk?
We
I
did
just want to
it.
say that's a fire segue.
We did
That's a
it.
nice
We did
segue.
it, guys.
We did it.
I worked real hard to make this happen,
It's all you, Kirk.
Thank you, Kirk.
This one's for you,
and I did it.
and it's for you.
Good job.
Yeah, Purple Rain is now officially a protected movie, which
What does that mean?
that means it has to be preserved. Like they have to do
Yeah.
anything they can. If there's a fire and all prints of Purple Rain are done,
All
they have
prints of
all
Purple
prints
Rain?
of Purple Rain are done. They have to preserve it. They have to rebuild. They have to
Yeah.
do everything they can.
It can't be allowed to like disappear
Yeah.
or be
That's
lost.
amazing.
It's not
or
allowed.
degrade
Really,
in
really
some
cool.
way.
Which is
So no remakes then.
Which going?
So
Wait, how does that happen? How does something become protected like that?
it has to be. I don't really know how it works, but there's a film. What is it called? The film registry deems which films are socially worthy.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of them.
So
It doesn't just have to be
It's-
decided that it's like important
Yeah.
in some way.
It's like when something becomes a national land or an international landmark or something.
Yeah, pretty
exactly.
much.
It's along those same lines.
So who serves on the board and how do they get there?
It's just me.
Oh, sick.
just a thing that I do.
It's just
Okay.
it's like it's anonymous by choice.
Yeah,
just
that's
like
right.
just like the
Yeah.
Academy is. It's like you don't know who it
Yeah.
is.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
I think it's a government entity, if I'm not mistaken.
It's called the National Film,
Film Registry.
so
Yeah,
I
it's
would
like the
assume-
Library of Congress.
Yeah.
It's protected. Because I love Prince so much. Again, for some reason, I'm real proud of this. I had nothing to do with this. I had nothing to.
Your undying love for
but
Prince had
but when
everything
I
to do
saw
with
this,
it.
I was like, oh man, I did a good thing today. I really did a good thing. I have nothing to do with this. I didn't vote for this. I didn't have any power over this. But it feels real good.
You put the energy towards
I
it.
put
Right.
energy to it.
It's because
Yeah.
you were loyal in your love. for
Exactly.
so long.
You ever watch PBS and they're like, because viewers like you.
It's
That's you.
Here's what I mean. Next step is to make.
I get it though.
Yeah.
I felt that way whenever I saw Daniel Johnston at the Hollywood Bowl because I was just like, I was in awe. I was like, I can't believe he is like sitting on one of the biggest stages in the world. This like indie folk musician who's like struggled with mental illness his entire life, and it's been this obscure force that's like only appealed to a certain small number of people, and like now I felt like I was there,
You're
and
there
I was
for it.
and I was like I contributed to it in some
I
way
controlled
of like
this.
writing for him for all those years,
Yeah.
like, and somehow
That's-
he collectively, me and every other Daniel Johnston fan talking about him and telling people like I'm doing right now,
Mm-hmm.
like led to him getting into a position where he was given that opportunity. And I know Prince is not some obscure thing that you
Yeah.
had to like champion for, but I get
Yeah,
the emotion.
I've been riding long and hard for Prince, and it's overdue. And now we got to get Under the Cherry Moon next.
No.
Which I will say is a good movie. Graffiti Bridge is trash, but Under the Cherry Moon is a fine film. It's misunderstood, and people just need to give it a shot because it's Prince going for a big swing.
That's
He strikes out. He strikes out. It's
You
a
should-
strikeout.
That's
you
never
should-
getting
You should
preserved.
petition for the movies that made us to behind the
For,
scenes.
for behind, there's a lot of behind the scenes for Purple Rain. It's very interesting how it got made, but we won't go into that'll be for another podcast.
Okay.
But I just good job, Prince.
A couple of last stories to go through. Don't want to spend too much time on them. Just really wrap it up, just for the sake of completion, to say we covered everything. Jack Black said in an interview that he's going to be retiring from acting after Jumanji 2.
But that's like retiring, right?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, to a certain degree, you can never like these retirings just never mean anything.
Yeah.
because no matter how much you say you're going to retire in 10 years, if you're just like I want to make like people just shouldn't say this. They should just
Yeah.
not say it.
Great.
Because it's like no matter how much you say that you're retired, like you can only retire from a job that you don't like. Like people retire.
Well, Rick Moranis.
Well, I mean, but
He's
that's
the best
like a
example.
rare
That's-
example
yeah,
or
that's
whatever.
the-
But
yeah.
like you can only retire. Like only people who worked 30 years as a mail carrier can retire because it's like it's not something you would ever be tempted to go back to.
Yeah, they pulled me back in.
Yeah.
The postage service.
I would love to see a reverse MIB where Tommy Lee Jones is like, I gotta get back into that office.
and it's just him just doing mail stuff.
Yeah, oh,
there's no alien
absolutely.
stuff. Just him sorting mail.
If you have a job that is like something that is your passion that you love, and it's also a good job that like anybody would want, you should never say you're retired because you'll always like in 10 years you're just like, oh, I want to make another movie.
Maybe he's just
Also,
like,
who cares? I mean,
I care.
I absolutely care.
love Jack
I
Black.
need a Tenacious
I
D2.
but I don't need an announcement. If he wants to,
Oh.
take a hiatus.
Well, somebody
take-
asked him. It wasn't like he was announcing
he was just
it.
like on his.
He was-
YouTube
somebody
channel.
was like, "What's your next movie?" And then he was like, "Actually, I kind of think I'm hanging it up."
He said the word I'm retiring. He said the word retiring.
Yeah. He said maybe one more movie. I'm kind of enjoying the idea of early retirement. I've been saying for a long time that it's the last movie. We'll see. I can't really say what my next thing is because it's too early.
Yeah, I kind of like it when people are just like, I'm hanging out. I don't need to make a movie for 10 years. Maybe I'll come back. I'm a creative person, so naturally I'll probably make something, but it's just how it is.
Yeah, that's what I would say something to that effect.
He's big on YouTube right now.
Yeah.
And I think he's kind of hedging his bets towards that. I think a lot of celebrities are going to start going towards that, especially with like the new rollout YouTube's doing. I think they're just going to kind of invite all the family-friendly celebrities as possible. Like Kung Fu Panda guy, of course we'll have you. We'll promote every single thing you do. And he doesn't really need to do acting like that kind of stuff anymore. But also, it does kind of create a demand for him. Like some people are going to want more Jack Black.
I listened to him on another podcast, and he talked a lot about just not being able to help wanting to be a person who is performative, and how it's not even necessarily a choice, which I think a lot of creative people feel that way. Whatever their craft, everyone who is creative typically has at least one craft that they kind of can't help but do it. And so I think that also is why I'm kind of, for people who are in creative industries, the idea of retiring is kind of not even realistic, because if they really are drawn to it in that magnetic way, they're probably just going to keep doing it in other forms or fashions.
100%. And that's why you just shouldn't say you're retiring.
Yeah.
When you do something like acting or something that's like your passion.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a Space Jam menu. I did this one for Lewis. There's going to be a Space Jam menu available at the Michael Jordan Steakhouse in Chicago.
What's on it?
So
We're going.
From now until April 13th of 2020, you can try Space Jam inspired meal during every Chicago Bulls home game. For anyone that's ever wanted to be like Mike, this meal will take you back to the Michael Jordan days and give anyone who tries it a feel of nostalgia. The new item titled Mike's Secret Stuff is well, that's the thing, is like in Space Jam at the end he tricks the Looney Tunes into thinking he's like,
Oh, yeah.
they're all super insecure about being able to beat the Monstars, and he goes, I got this this stuff that like makes you a star athlete. It's called Mike's Secret Stuff, and he puts water into a water bottle and just puts a sign on it, and they drink it, and they all think it's like a placebo. They think that it's like magic, and then at the end, he's like, it was just water.
Does it also fertilize eggs?
Yes.
You were this close to messing it up for me.
Michael Jordan made Bugs Bunny drink his cum. So anyway,
Oh my God.
That's gonna go viral.
Oh, my son can't listen.
We gotta push this one.
Is it a baseball themed restaurant?
What?
It's
Because
basketball.
he did baseball.
In the movie. Okay, yeah, kind of.
Okay, come on.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So it's consists of a Space Jam burger that consists of 10-ounce beef patty that is stacked with barbecue braised pork belly, dill pickles, mustard, pickled onions, and buttercas. And aged cheddar.
Yeah.
And if that's not enough for you, the menu item also comes as a combo with hand cut fries and Mike's Secret Stuff salted caramel milkshake. So the meal is like really not actually like themed.
You broke Todd.
Yeah.
You just
Yeah.
broke Todd.
It's not really like the food really has nothing to do with Space Jam. It's just
Yeah.
being called that.
Yeah.
That's, man.
All for $27.
It's a lot of money for
Yeah.
a mediocre meal.
That's
Well, we don't know about that.
Oh,
I don't know.
we
if it's-
know.
Secretly
I don't know
made
about
out
the
of
quality
water.
of
We
Michael
know.
Jordan's
I've-
steakhouse.
10-ounce burgers.
Okay, but
That's
if
big
it's
stuff.
if it's themed, that means the theme is distracting from the quality.
Yep.
Yeah.
why can't it
Maybe.
be both?
That it could be both, but
That's what I'm
typically
saying.
the theme is the draw and not the quality.
Yeah.
People,
I mean, the
they-
price tag comes from the fact that every single meal has Michael Jordan's cum in it. That's expensive.
You think they're not? You don't think they're just outsourcing the cum?
Alright,
It like it's pure
Yeah,
MJ.
some of the cum is Dennis Rodman's. The way that you know is if you get sick
Oh, I thought if I started liking, never mind.
afterwards. That's not food poisoning. That's hepatitis C.
All right.
This
You
took
guys-
a
you guys ruined it for me,
weird-
man.
That's real.
Y'all ruined it for
Weird
me.
He has
Okay.
hepatitis C. The Matrix 4, which was announced and is being made, it was just announced the release date for it, and it's coming out on the same day as John Wick 4. So,
making such
what is
a
the
big
air
deal.
quotes?
You just
Never
because
mind.
of the cum reference earlier.
Oh.
Now, I mean, that's all you, Lewis.
All right, man. Listen.
So on this day, which is May 21st of 2021, you can go to the theater and have a Keanu Reeves double feature,
I'm here for
and you
it.
can see The Matrix 4 and John Wick 4.
The
And
question,
you can even
though,
and you can
from-
even like go to different theaters because
Ugh.
I've worked in a movie theater and I can say theater hopping is not difficult.
No.
So you can go.
It just makes
Which
me
one do you
feel
watch
bad
first?
inside.
Why does it make you feel
Why
bad?
does it make you
inside?
feel bad
Keanu
inside?
Reeves?
I don't
Wait.
like it. It feels like a trap.
What
it
does?
Feels,
What?
Trying to cheat?
The Matrix.
As
is-
if you're
No,
in the Matrix.
both of those movies
Oh, okay.
back to back. No thanks. I'm
Why?
not? That's
I don't
what-
understand that at all.
It's completely emotional what I'm feeling right now. I can't offer you a logical explanation. and
I'm
I-
so excited for this.
and
I can't
I-
wait for John Wick 4. I can't. It's sad to me that it's coming out in 2 years. I
haven't
want to see it
seen the third
now.
one.
John Wick 1 through 3 are fucking amazing.
Are those real? I mean, are they meant to be taken seriously?
Absolutely.
I don't want to have this conversation because it's just going to get me mad. John Wick
Alright.
1 through 3 are
They're
great
amazing.
movies.
Yeah.
They're great.
And I got a great John Wick 2 story.
Okay.
I went to with my roommates at the time several years ago to see this advanced early screening of Get Out. I got there a little late, so I get to is at the ArcLight Hollywood, and I went to like go get in line with them. I made a beeline for them, and I just wasn't paying attention, and I was like so stressed out about being late, and I accidentally like kind of stepped over this girl that was sitting on the floor. And I was just going over to step, and then I just kind of like, you know, if Kirk was sitting down, and I kind of like stepped over his legs, and I just wasn't paying attention, and I walked up to them, and as I did it, she went like, hey, that's basically rape. And I was like, what? And like she made this big scene, and she was like, you just got into my personal space, and just like I could call the police on you, like that's sexual assault. And I was just like, I'm so sorry. Like I saw my friends and I didn't mean to. And she was like that is like I could say you raped me. And I was just like, I was like, I'm not fighting this. I was like, I am so sorry. She was clearly either going through something or like a type of person that's just like somebody you don't want to hang around with. But she was yelling this for everybody in this crowd to hear. And I was just like so deer in the headlights, terrified. And I was just like, I'm so sorry. Like, I didn't mean to. I apologize. And she finally was just like, whatever. That happened. And then immediately afterward, these people come up, and the people for the thing, and they're like, oh, you can't get in line with them. Like, if they got here, like, people can't save places in line.
That's dumb.
So I was like, oh, okay. And so I got in the back of the line, and they started letting in. And these things, they always, like, purposely overbook for them so that they can fill the theater. So not everybody is going to get in. So I didn't get in. So I start leaving, and then I notice that there's a red carpet with all kinds of reporters, journalists, and people taking pictures, and there's like celebrities going through. And I saw Chris D'Elia going through this red carpet, and I realized that the John Wick 2 premiere was happening at the ArcLight on the same night. And this woman approached me, and she was like, "Hey, do you want to see John Wick 2 for free?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And I just got ushered in to see the premiere of John Wick 2, and I was like one of the last people that was being ushered in, so I got like put in the very front row. And so I'm like sitting there, and I'm just like, oh, like this is fucking crazy that this just happened out of nowhere. And then there was a surprise that Keanu Reeves was there, and he was introducing the movie, and he came and he did his like introduction, and he was literally standing. I'm sitting in the front row, and he's that far away from me, and he's standing right in front of me, talking over my head to the crowd, and I'm just staring up at him like this. And then he patted me on the leg and said he liked my shirt.
And then you said sexual assault.
And I was like, hey, that's basically rape.
Wow, that was a good story.
Yeah.
actually. I didn't know where it was going, but that was a good story.
It was a crazy whirlwind of a night, and
Yeah.
it ended
That
up
is
being
nuts.
great.
So is ArcLight known for kind of doing that, where they bring in the people who are involved with the movie to introduce it?
Yeah, a lot. Yeah, they do that a lot.
Because I went kind of my first day in LA, and the director of the movie came out, and
What was the movie?
I knew you were gonna say that, and I can't remember it.
You don't remember?
That's why the director was there, because it was a nothing.
No, it was a good movie. He did Swiss Army Man.
Oh, the Daniels.
Oh.
The Daniels.
It was
His
just
first
one
name's
guy.
Well, but the Daniels directed Swiss Army Man.
Oh.
It's
So-
a team of 2 guys.
I see. One of the Daniels was there, and the stars of the movie were there, and I was like, "Wow, this is L.A. The stars are here."
No, yeah,
Made it.
that does happen a lot at the
Every
ArcLight. They'll have
Yeah.
like surprise, like, and by the way, this person's here to introduce the movie.
So it was actually kind of funny because they introduced it, and then they started to leave, and somebody in the audience, because there were like 5 of us, somebody in the audience said, "Hey, you're not going to stay?" And he said, "Actually, I'm just going to go watch Hustlers, but I might be back at the end." It was kind of cool.
Wow.
Oscar Isaac, in a recent interview, said that the Dune remake will be shocking, unique, and visceral. Oscar Isaac recently spoke with an Entertainment Weekly about Star Wars Rise of the Skywalker, but he spilled a little about Dune as well, which he teased in quite different form. He said, it's just a wholly different thing. I couldn't imagine anyone more suited for the tone of the original Frank Herbert novels than Denis Villeneuve is directed Dune. He's a director who made Sicario and Blade Runner 2049.
Cool.
Nice.
There are some things that are, for lack of a better word, nightmarish about what you see. There's just this kind of brutalist element to it. It's shocking, it's scary, it's very visceral, and I know that definitely between Denise and myself and Chalamet and Rebecca Ferguson, which are actresses, as the family unit, we really search for the emotion of it. I'm beyond myself with excitement. I think it's a good feel, cool, unique, and special. So, given some good early vibes or hype for the Dune remake.
Timothy Chalamet?
Yeah.
I don't know.
What is okay?
I believe it is Timothy.
What is he
Chalamet.
from? I know the name.
He's in a lot. He was in
Isn't that
The
just
King. Is it called The King? It just came out on
one of those
Netflix.
teen movies where he dies?
He's in
You guys
Call
are
Me By Your Name.
helpful.
Oh yeah, he's in that.
Thank you.
That guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
He's going to be in Little Women, or he is in Little Women.
Oh.
Yeah, it's probably him.
Yeah.
The thing I pasted just used his
Called
last
him
name.
Chalamet.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I loved Blade Runner 2049. It's genuinely one of my favorite movies.
You were like Sicario. I was like, yeah. And then you're like 2049. I was like, this is gonna be a drawn out movie. It's gonna be a long.
See, this is
movie.
why I will one day kill you.
But
You mean turn me off?
Yeah, yeah.
Gotcha.
Dune
Sicaria's
is a-
kind of like that too.
Sicaria's
It's
great.
drawn
That's
out.
what I'm
but
saying. Like Sicario is really action packed, but also drawn out. And then I was like, this could go any way if the next movie he says, and then it was another very long and drawn out movie.
Well,
Yeah,
Dune's a
not
long
the-
book.
It is. Oh, look at
Zendaya.
that
Oh,
cast.
Zendaya's in it. Jason
Jason
Momoa.
Momoa.
Wow.
I'm always a fan of Oscar. Isaac.
Stellan
Me
Skarsgård.
too.
Love Oscar Isaac.
Yeah, I'm super excited. Yeah, I love
Can-
I love Dune. I mean, I love the books, Frank Herbert books, and I also, as much as it's very strange and not like the books at all, and sort of has been gone down as like almost this bad mistake of a movie, but I do love David Lynch's Dune. Last 2 stories. First of all, Vanna White hosted Wheel of Fortune for the first time in 37 years.
Long overdue.
After Pat Sajak had emergency surgery, the show's famous Letter Turner took her first turn leading the show for 3 weeks of episodes that started airing on Monday. So while he was recovering from surgery, she hosted the show. And honestly, they should just keep her hosting the show because Pat Sajak is a fucking piece of shit.
Such a bland dude. What is?
It's not about being bland. He's
Oh.
like an alt-right, like
Oh,
I had
like
no idea.
anti-vaxxer crazy person.
good for her for hosting, but who's turning the letters?
She's doing both because she can do both.
That's
No, I
what
don't.
I'm-
I don't know. I actually
I
don't
was
know.
like, I was like, that's what I'm
I
talking
thought you were
about.
serious. I was like, oh,
Like,
that's
good
even
for
better.
her.
I have no idea, but that'd be cool. It's like when Justin Timberlake hosts SNL and he also is the musical performer, and he introduces himself, which is funny to me because anytime any other musician hosts and then also performs, they always get the cast to introduce them, but Justin Timberlake introduces himself and then runs on stage.
I love that.
which is very funny to me. Worst story, saddest story. Caroll Spinney, puppeteer behind Big Bird and Oscar the Grouch, has died at 85. Caroll Spinney, the man behind Sesame Street characters Big Bird and Oscar the Grouch for nearly 50 years, died at the age of 85 on Sunday. Spinney died in his home in Connecticut and had been living with dystonia, a disorder that causes a person's muscles to contract uncontrollably. Since 1969, Carol's kind and loving view of the world helped shape and define Sesame Street, the nonprofit organization behind the beloved children's show said. His enormous talent and outsized heart were perfectly suited to playing the larger-than-life yellow bird who brought joy to countless fans of all ages around the world, and his lovingly cantankerous Grouch gave us all permission to be cranky once in a while. And, as a callback, I'm glad you brought that thing up earlier, Lewis, because as a callback to that, whenever I found out this news on Monday, I posted this on my Facebook page. I said, "Thank you, Caroll Spinney, for capturing the imagination of an isolated kid and making him feel happy in those days when the universe felt too large and lonely to anchor him down. I bought my first son a Big Bird doll a few months before he was born because I remembered how you helped me growing up. No disrespect to the new puppeteer, but you're the only Big Bird that will ever be. R.I.P."
Oh.
Sesame Street wasn't quite as influential and big to me as the Muppets were. Definitely, the Muppets were a very big thing for me. But I did love Sesame Street, and yeah.
I am saddened because Big Bird was really the only one that I knew from Sesame Street. I wasn't lucky enough to have it in my household, but
You didn't have PBS.
I did, but when I did,
that's poor.
When,
that's very poor.
When I did, I wouldn't get home in time or something, and I would always end up watching the Lions one, the Lions in the library or whatever.
Yeah, that show sucked.
Yeah, and I was like, I fucking got a knockoff version of a knockoff. It was a knockoff of a shitty knockoff. I don't know what they were doing with it, but it was terrible.
What was that show called? It was some pun.
Yeah.
It was like lying around or something like that.
Something fucking stupid. R.I.P.
R.I.P. Caroll Spinney. I watched some recent clips of Sesame Street that my son was looking at, and I heard the voice of Big Bird now, and I was like, oh, that's not Big Bird. So anyway, yeah, that's our show. Thanks for listening. If you like the show and you haven't yet, please subscribe. If you have subscribed and you think that there might be a friend who would be interested in listening to this, feel free to share the show with them. If you want to learn more about the show or any of our other content that we're doing, you can look at our Facebook page. It's called Nostalgia. Just search for Nostalgia on the Facebook page. We're the official Nostalgia account. We post cool, interesting nostalgia content every day. We have a Facebook group called Nostalgia where you can keep up to date with podcast stuff as well as just other general nostalgia stuff, and also talk to a community of people who are into nostalgia content. You can follow us on Instagram at Nostalgia. We also post really cool nostalgia content there. If you have a question, comment, or anything that you might want us to read on the air during a show, you can email us at nostalgicastpod@gmail.com. And if you are a fan of the show and you do subscribe and all these things and you want to support us in a more monetary way, you can go to our Facebook page, the Nostalgia Facebook page, and at the top you can click on the Become a Supporter button. And you can become a supporter for $4.99 a month. You support the show, and you also get access to exclusive bonus content that other people don't get. So bonus episodes of the podcast, bonus videos that we make, all that stuff. Become a supporter, and you can get some cool bonus content. Thanks for listening.